Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another 3 Point Weekly stream. We are another week closer to the NBA season. We have preseason basketball under our belts now. And with the NBA season being closer, we have very few predictions left to make, but we do have Western Conference standings predictions to make here today. We will recap our Eastern Conference standings predictions later. If you missed last week, feel free to check out last week's stream, but we will give a recap of that later. And as we do give these Western Conference standings predictions, be sure to leave your thoughts in the chat below. Be sure to like, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to continue to get more NBA content from us as we move into the season. But we got to get started with the one extension of the week. Last week, of course, was the busy week with Dame and Drew and all the guys getting traded, but especially for our Boston fan here on the pod, Enrique, Peyton Pritchard has now gone from a guy who's been asking out to a guy who's going to be looked to play a prominent role in Boston as he signed a 4-year, $30 million extension. Get your thoughts first, Reek. What do you feel about the deal, and what do you see from Pritchard coming into this season now that he's very much being shown that he's going to have to play a crucial role this year?
Yeah, I think what surprised me the most about the contract extension is just like how you mentioned this is somebody that's been asking out for like the last 8 or so months, like since around last trade deadline. And he just signed an extension for a long-term extension, so he's going to be around for quite a while. I like the move because obviously with all the trades that happened, the depth is a little depleted. But he's somebody that's been around, for the last few years, has played a pretty, decent role on the team that went to the finals, where he did get a lot of run off of that bench as a backup guard, and had some good moments too, offensively. So it's somebody that you're going to need. You got to invest in him, got to give him that confidence. He seemed happy after he signed the extension and everything. Seems like he's ready to commit, be around. So glad that that's all out of the way, all the drama, him really being expressive that he wants out. But, I've been impressed with his preseason so far, man. He looks like he's taken another step and he's ready to really assume that backup point guard role and hopefully have a big year. Interested to see just like, how he responds to being like back into the rotation full time and probably more relied upon than ever before in his young career so far. So, it could be a big year for him, man. I mean, you get paid, a strong preseason start, and that's all the confidence, all the keys to the backup unit is going to be in his hands. So I'm excited for what Peyton Pritchard can provide this season.
Yeah, I really was not expecting it, but then once it happened, it started to make a lot more sense to me. Just thinking about where they were when he requested that trade and the fact that his desired role is going to be that backup point guard spot, your sixth man. And they had a starting point guard in Marcus Smart who wasn't going anywhere, and a backup in Malcolm Brogdon, who was among the best backup point guards in the league, sixth man of the year. So for him and what he wanted to do, like it just wasn't feasible. But now with the direction they've gone, and especially in getting Malcolm Brogdon out the door, that happening, and then immediately getting Pritchard on an extension just lines up perfectly. Now, I mean, I don't know if he ever aspires to be a starting caliber player. That's obviously not going to happen here. But even just to play that bench role and know that he has a prominent spot in the rotation, that like his contributions are going to matter, that opened up. And now he's going to have to step up. I mean, he has guaranteed money for a couple of years now, but I think he's in a spot where it's like, all right, we choose you as our guy in the future, and we're going to need you to show out and do that. And I think he will. We've seen good things from him, maybe not so much last year when these things were happening, but years before that, like his first year or so, really solid bench production from him. So I really do expect that to continue this year.
Yeah, it's definitely a vote of confidence from the front office, and very much so from the fact that they started with trading away their depth, with trading away Marcus Smart and trading away Malcolm Brogdon. They're very much shown that, yes, they were obviously willing to give up those guys to go out and get a Damian Lillard, a Drew Holiday, and to get a Kristaps Porzingis, but also in the fact now that they've traded away those guys and have now paid Peyton Pritchard. They obviously believe enough in him, and they're relying on what he most recently played for them, which is a while ago now as far as consistent minutes, but also the growth he's had. And I mean, he's been able to learn from a Marcus Smart. He's been able to learn from a Derek White. He's been able to learn from a Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, these are very good point guards who are very talented in a lot of different areas of the game, that are very well-rounded guards that he would have been able to pick up a lot from over the last couple of years. So I expect a good year from Peyton Pritchard. seen some dark horse 6 man of the year shouts on Twitter a couple hours ago. I don't know if I'm going that far yet, but hey, this is going to be a competitive Boston team that's going to have to rely on someone to step up on this bench. And Pritchard has shown, at least in spurts, that he can be a very good offensive player, that he does have a lot of talent on that end. If he can really put it all together, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. So I think there's a lot to look forward to for Pritchard. I think the extension makes sense, and I think it should be a spot where Boston should be okay in terms of depth, assuming a guy like Pritchard can play as well as he does.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not going to be like Malcolm Brogdon level good, but if he's like anywhere near that, I think that's, you know, a fine add off of that bench. And it's just interesting because, like, I'm pretty sure he was a Danny Ainge draft pick, so this is like a really like a big vote of confidence for Brad Stevens, because we've seen Brad trade guys that played for him still. But they hung on to Pritchard. Like, they didn't move him at the deadline. And to give somebody a 4-year extension, like, that's a really big vote of confidence. Like, that's not like just like a, you know, 1-2 year deal. Like, this is like, we want you to be around for like really our window. Like, you know, as long as like JB, JT are here, like, that's kind of our window. So that's definitely a big vote of confidence. So hopefully that, you know, even though he didn't play much last year, at least like a prominent role, that could be able to really boost him and just help him like reach new levels that we haven't seen from him so far, you know, in his young career.
Yeah, I think it honestly, like, looking at the Celtics depth, it might even be a little underrated. I think they have a lot of pieces who could be something, at least regular season wise. Like, I don't know how many are cracking a playoff rotation, but between Pritchard, they drafted Jordan Walsh, who people are high on, especially you, Reek. I know made a whole video on him. Like Lamar Stevens, I've seen good stuff out of when he was in Cleveland. O'Shea Brissett's had his moments. Sam Hauser was even getting like playoff minutes for them last year. So they have a lot of guys, and then rounding out that bench with you, assume Al Horford coming off of there. You've got some decent little depth. So, I mean, how many of those guys crack the playoffs? Maybe like 2 or 3, but out of the just having the 82-game regular season, I think they have a lot of guys that can really provide contributions, more than we might think just at a first glance.
Yeah.
I think the other thing to consider too, I know we briefly talked about this last week when we talked about the fact that Boston have picks to move off of, but how they match salaries is weird. Worst case scenario, Pritchard is probably that guy long term. If they are looking to make another move, if Drew leaves or he retires or whatever it may be, or even if they just want to improve on their depth, if Pritchard isn't quite as good as they would like to be, he's probably that type of guy who ends up being included to match salaries at some point as well. So one way or another, he's going to be valuable. I mean, ideally he's the depth piece, but that option does lie there as well.
Yeah, not a crazy deal either. Like a little less than $8 million a year. Like that's something that he could easily outplay. Like just depending on how well he plays over the course of this contract, man. Because you know, a lot of guys get paid around that amount of money. Like that's Jock Landale money at this point.
Yeah.
You know, in the NBA.
Yeah, it's not even a mid-level exception these days. That's great value.
Exactly.
Right. $8 million. I honestly, they signed him at a good time front office wise, thinking this is probably his stock's probably lower right now than it was a year ago, just because he had all that trade request drama in the rotation less because of Malcolm Brogdon's presence and everything going on with that. Like the fact that they got it done now, like you're saying, easy to outplay. This is probably the best time for them to get it done for their sake.
Yeah. I wonder if it like how that affects like the potential Derek White extension. I know they said they wanted to extend Drew. Like, still a lot more decisions that have to be made, but you know, locking up Pritchard is a good one if he's going to be like your key piece off the bench and maybe gets moved sometime down the line if you need to. Like, that's provides some type of flexibility for sure.
For sure, definitely good timing on it. Definitely a good cheap move. Like you say, we'll see what happens with the rest of the guys long term, but dealing with Pritchard, at least at about a low of price you're going to get is definitely a good move. But that being said, pretty light on the news front compared to last week. So
we had like an hour.
we had about an hour last week, but this week, I think without further ado, we will get right into the heat of things, and we will get into our Western Conference standings predictions. I know the random number generator has given me Reek a couple times over the last couple of weeks. So, Gabe, not that I think there's going to be a ton of drama at 15, unless you throw us for a loop, but give us your 15th seed in the Western Conference this year.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my 15 might be different because like I put them here pretty quickly, but like I don't think it's that obvious because I think there's a guy on this team who could give them a couple more wins than we expect. I have San Antonio at 15. I don't know if that was the consensus pick because I know you guys said like 15 wasn't that hard for you, but like there's a lot of really talented teams here. And while Victor could have a really good rookie year, it's like expecting a rookie to come in and really push the needle that much versus a lot of the other teams who have some more experienced guys. Like a team like Portland just started a rebuild, but they have experienced pieces like Jeremy Grant, like DeAndre Ayton now, like Robert Williams. The Rockets, they signed a couple vet guys in Brooks, Van Vliet, some of these other teams that might be towards the bottom. San Antonio doesn't really have as much of that, and there's still a lot of guys who they have to give opportunities to. And honestly, I think they should continue to just not be that good so they can get Victor that real like second co-star, depending on how good Devin Vassell or Keldon Johnson gets, maybe like a third guy. But I think they're in the running where they're definitely not going to be a playoff team. So I think them just trying to get one more like really good pick to really solidify that young core would even be good for them.
Yeah, you said it well. I got the Spurs at 15 too. But if Wemby is as good as advertised, they could probably sneak out of the 15th. Like that, it's not out of the realm of possibility. He could be one of those super rookies that just comes in and affects winning that much that they just win a few more games than what we expect. But like you said, Gabe, it would be kind of smart for them to prioritize being bad, maybe another year or two. Like it would not be the worst thing in the world. They're probably the one team in the conference that, well, there might be another team too, like one or two more teams, but they're one of those teams that like they should be at the bottom and they will benefit from being at the bottom. Like them having like a jump this season because Wemby's that good, I don't know if that benefits them too much long term. So I would want to see them bottom out, be bad, try and get another top 3 pick again. So I got the Spurs at 15, but I'm gonna tune into some Spurs games for sure to see Wemby, to see Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and them because they should be fun to watch early on.
They definitely should be fun to watch. But yeah, this is where I have the Spurs as well. Like you alluded to, Reek, if Wemby just plays that well, maybe they do climb themselves up a bit. I mean, this could even be a situation as good as the bottom of this conference is, that no one's very far under or under at all 30 wins. It could be that type of conference this year. There's just so much depth and talent. Now someone could fall apart. The Spurs could be one of them. We'll probably get to a few of those other teams momentarily, but this is by far the team that could most benefit in this conference by having a bad year and is the least likely team to go, maybe we make a push for the play-in out of some of these teams that we're going to talk about for the next 3 spots. They're still in a position, like you mentioned, Gabe. They could do with the co-star still to Wemby. They could do with another top pick. So I would not be surprised at all to see them at pick 15. Or at seed 15.
Pretty much what you guys were saying was that was my whole preface before I revealed my number 15, where I'm like, yeah, Wemby being there, like he could swing it a little bit, but I don't know, just a year away. We'll go to 14 though. The team I put at 14, I wanted to put at 13, but then I looked at it and I'm like, I can't imagine the whole bottom of the conference staying the exact same as it was a year ago. So I did a little switcheroo because I think they're close anyways. I put Portland here. And I really like a lot of what Portland has. There's young talent in their backcourt between Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, bringing in Scoot Henderson, and their front court, Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton. Some other pieces that they brought along, like I almost said Chris Dunn because we were talking about him earlier, but Chris Murray, and then Matisse Thybulle. Like, those like 7 or 8 guys, like I think they have a really solid group of talent right there, but I just don't think it's yet. It's a little bit too early to actually see them going somewhere far and winning a lot of games, but I think this is going to be a really fun developmental year for them and a team that might even look a little bit better than their record shows, but I still expect them to just be a little bit towards the bottom because at the end of the day, they did just kick off a rebuild.
I don't hate it. I got the Jazz here. I got the Utah Jazz here. There's talent, a lot of talent for sure. Maybe too much like in the backcourt, like how we were talking about earlier. Devin said they got 6 guys, and we forgot about Chris Dunn. Like at least I did for
a decent stretch. So like they got a lot of guys that can play ball for sure. But I think just another team, even though they got a all-star caliber guy in Lauri Markkanen, they could benefit from bringing in some more pieces down the line. I do like they got like a lot of front court depth and stuff, but I just don't see them being one of those teams that can contend for that playing spot right now. Just because the rest of the West is so good, and there's going to be more teams I think that will prioritize winning a little more than Utah, who is one of those other teams that I was thinking like they could benefit another year, maybe being bad, and try and get maybe more of a top pick than what they had this past season. So I got the Jazz at 14.
The Western Conference is great, man. We're at seed 14, and we're going to have 3 different teams already. This is great. Houston Rockets are my 14 seed. I've been hating on them all summer, so it shouldn't be a complete shock. But I think this is a competitive 14 seed. I think there's, barring a big year from Wemby that is far beyond expectations, I think there's a pretty significant gap between 15 and the rest of the conference. I think this is a pretty competitive 14 seed that probably isn't even that far out of the play-in picture if all goes as well as they hope. The fit's weird here. There's still a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of new pieces. There's a lot of young pieces. There's a new head coach. There's a lot of change here. And how that all gels together in the next 8 months, I don't know if it's going to gel well enough to be that competitive in this good of a conference this year. So 14 seed is where I have the Rockets.
Yeah, I'm not mad at all because I literally had them at 13. And like I said, I was considering putting them at 14, but I didn't simply because I'm like, last year the bottom 3 was Spurs, Rockets, Blazers in that order. And I'm like, what are the odds that it stays the exact same 2 years in a row? So I'm like, you know what? I'll give the benefit of the doubt to Fred and them. And I'm like, yeah, maybe the Rockets will get a couple extra wins, but we're just not really liking this team. We had another rant segment last week about the whole like Reggie Bullock thing, and just looking at them at this point, this far into it, there's a lot of talent, obviously, but it's like to the point where there's so many mouths to feed. I don't know if the chemistry is going to gel very well. It's like you have these veteran guys and like Dylan Brooks and Van Vliet that have like been to the playoffs a couple times, and one of them even has a championship. And then at the same time, you're trying to like develop and cultivate this new crop of talent with like Amin Thompson, Cam Whitmore. I'd still throw Jalen Green in that group, Jabari Smith, all these different guys. And it's just this mix of like differing philosophies. Like I don't know what they're trying to do. And then even like with all I have, I still don't think this team will be a very good defense at all. Because I mean, I don't even know who they're running at the big position besides like Şengün, and he's not really a great defender. So like, outside of just Ime scheming, I don't know how that gets that much better. And just everything about this team just feels wrong. And it makes sense why we've been so negative about them all offseason.
That is a great quote. Everything about this team feels wrong. Yeah, I got them at 13 too for everything that you guys just said. Like, there's improved talent, right? And we expect the young guys to have gotten better anyways, but there's improved talent, veterans and stuff, but the fit's just it's funky. It's funky. That's the best way I could say it. Like I see Cam Whitmore hooping in the preseason. I'm like, damn, this is probably like the most run he's gonna get like all year, like in preseason games. Like it's a shame, man. It's a shame. I think Ime can come in, shift the culture a little bit, but like you said, Devin, it's gonna take a little more than one season to really fix this culture because it's really messed up in Houston. It's been messed up for a while, since the whole James Harden situation, and they haven't really recovered too much. So, they're going to try – they want to trick themselves into thinking that they can be a play-in, playoff team. But, nah, there's a discernible gap between them and whoever's going to be that 10 seed. So, Houston's here. If they were worse, I would not be surprised at all, though.
Definitely. I mean, the telltale signs is that I already saw a Houston fan on Twitter last night complaining about Freddie and not passing it to some of their young guys. So I think that tells us everything we need to know. But my 13 seed is the Pelicans. This is where I have the New Orleans Pelicans. Ooh. And the talent is there. The talent is there. We know that. They've been a very good team when they are healthy. But I'm concerned about the health. We're already having concerns about Trey Murphy. We have Zion's continued question mark. We have Brandon Ingram's continued question mark. Now, they are healthy going into the year, which is never a certainty in New Orleans, so I'll give them that to start. But we saw what happened once Zion was not healthy last year, and it was a dumpster fire after that. If they can stay healthy, they will be better than a 13 seed. But they already have some health concerns to some of their depth. The stars are always an injury concern. It's a little bit of a concerning situation in New Orleans with how available or how the lack of availability they have amongst their top guys. And this is the type of conference this year where if you're not healthy, you're going to get eaten alive by these other teams competing, even just for a play-in spot, never mind a postseason spot, because there's that much talent in this conference. And they proved last year that when one of their or both of their top guys go down, they're one of the least equipped teams to fight through it. Unless that changes, they could really struggle this year. I don't think they're far out of the play-in, but they're a 13 seed.
It's so crazy because, like, that last point you made, like, they have so, like, I remember going into last season, we were talking about, like, it was like 1 through like 10 or 1 through 11. Like, they had like guys that are good NBA players. But even just like the loss of Zion was like kind of too much for them. Like, it's just like how much he affects winning, and also a healthy Brandon Ingram. When CJ's on his game, like how much those guys all affect winning, and we haven't seen them all play together. Like, I don't even know if at all we have. Like,
I think so.
It's a valid concern. It's definitely a very valid concern. Like, they're a team that we've seen like their peaks, how good they can probably be if healthy, but we just can't. We haven't seen the health. Like, that is a big proponent in winning basketball games and being a competitive playoff team. So, valid concern, valid reasoning for sure.
Yeah, in a conference this tight, like entering the season already, like with just Trey Murphy out for as long as he is, it's just like he's not even one of their top guys, but it's just bad. Like, it's just bad. It's a bad omen. I don't like it.
Yeah,
and the vibes are not astounding. It's so funny because I was on the Key of 3 stream last night, and we were just giving some like hot takes for the upcoming season, and shit, Mo said he thought the Pelicans were going to win a playoff series this year. So to go from winning a playoff series to being a 13 seed, like that's what I was saying before the pod. I was like, I'm excited to see where this team lands because they're a team where I think if you say, yeah, I think they can be a top 4 seed, they have that potential on paper. But when you say, yeah, I got them at 13, I'm like not phased.
Yeah, it's not crazy. It's not.
I can tell you I don't have them that low though. My where we're at 13.
Are we at 13?
Yeah, 12.
Are we
now.
at 12? So I was about to say I already talked a bunch about Houston. Okay, 12. Yeah. So this is another repeat team, so I don't got to go on too long. I have Utah here for a lot of. I think Reek, you already had them. They have like good talent. They have some good pieces, but kind of like what I was saying with some of these other teams, like most specifically Portland, like I just don't feel like they're in the place to really be that competitive yet. They started off a rebuild and they overperformed for a bit of last year with like that just 1 seed stretch where they were going crazy. And then they really regressed for the rest of the season and obviously ended up at 12. And to go from 1 to 12, that shows you were really playing even worse than just 12 for the rest of that season. But some of these guys should have internal improvements. And even a couple of the guys they brought in, at least one of them should make an impact between the Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, even Bryce Sensabaugh, a ton of first-round picks coming onto this team. So there's a lot of guys to develop here. Like you guys mentioned earlier, there's like 6 different guards who could be vying for minutes. So it's like I think this year for them is a lot of figuring out who their future is and like how good they can be that quickly. Do they need to go more long-term rebuild? Like if this team gets to like January and they're not looking to make the playoffs, they might say, okay, we need to actually like tank. But if they end up being surprisingly competitive behind like Lowry Markkanen, Walker Kessler's defense, and 1 or 2 of the guards really cements themselves as those starter guys, they could make that play-in push because I have them a little bit higher than that bottom 3. But I do think they are closer to that development phase than they are to being competitive.
Didn't mention John Collins one time, man. Be ashamed.
Not moved.
That's part of the. That's part of the.
What was the return for him?
Meme. Come on now.
What was the return for him? It was like nothing. I'm not moved.
They traded
Rudy Gay and a 2nd-round pick.
Rudy Gay in a second round pick, yeah. If his value is Rudy Gay in a second round pick, then his plus minus on the amount of wins they get.
It means yeah. He can't be worse than what he was last season though in Atlanta. I can't see him getting worse than that.
A lot of that value was the contract, not the on-court performance. Not that he was great, but he'll still be a solid contributor. This is where I have the Jazz as well. They're my 12 seed heading into next year. I do think the John Collins addition will be good. That combination of him and Walker Kessler and Taylor Hendricks, who can man the front court. I don't know what their perimeter defense is going to be like, but those three guys next to Laurie at the 3, that length is absurd. That length is nasty. I've said it for a reason. It's going to be a really good defensive front court. The back court, yeah, we'll see. But that length at least is going to be very disruptive and give them very good paint defense. Like you alluded to, Gabe, they got a lot of guards, and some of them have got to catch fire, whether any of them are consistent or it's more of a night-to-night basis with Sexton going off one night, Clarkson another, THT another. We'll see. But they have enough guys that hopefully they can start to figure out what they want to value long-term, and it should be enough to give them some level of production for this season. Like you said, long-term, they might be better off being a little bit worse, but there's a lot of talent on this roster, and especially at the guard spot, there's a lot of depth on this roster, and probably a little bit too much for them to be much worse than this.
Yes, if they get some if a couple of those guards, like I'll expect Jordan Clarkson to be good because he's been so good for so long. But if like a THT really separates himself, or maybe a Keontae George is an impressive rookie, or maybe it's Chris Dunn, like who knows? If one of those guards can really command like that backcourt too, they could be a team that could really sneak into the play just because that front court is so stacked. Lowry is such a good just number one option for them. Like just gets the job done. Defensively, Walker Kessler, John Collins, Taylor Hendricks, like that's a team right there. There's definitely a team. But that backcourt is just a little concerning for me because it's like you got a lot of guys, but who's going to be like your main contributors night in, night out? You know, that's to be seen. I didn't get my 12, I don't think. I got the Blazers here. For a team that hit the reset, there's so much talent there. And I couldn't even fathom the idea of their rebuild looking this good, like this early on after trading Dame, but it's even better than what I could have imagined, man. Like there's so much talent in the backcourt at the center position. Like they got a lot of guys, even like a Jeremy Grant can still play really good basketball, even though he's not like a young piece, but he can definitely provide, some help to winning games this season. So really good team. Excited to see what Chauncey Billups can do with these guys. They could be knocking on the door of that play-in though, for sure.
Yeah, I would not be shocked by that.
I love this Portland love.
Because
I put him the lowest. I put him the lowest, and I'm like, it pains me because the bottom 4 in the West last year in that order, like I said with the bottom 3, because I don't want to spoil it, but the Jazz were 12 last year too. So I'm like, dude, I couldn't put him in the same order, but I like that you guys got Portland a little bit higher because that rebuild they really could be scary day one. Everybody could be scary for their own different reasons.
I saw Ayton. I know they were playing against an NBL team. I think it was the Breakers, but seen them block a shot off the glass and then rim run, catch it, 2-hand dunk. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen him do that, like ever, like end to end like that. And I know it's an NBL team. I know it's preseason, but if he's coming with that type of energy, man, I'm excited to see it. That's going to help them out a lot. And he's going to get a lot of free looks just off of Scoot Henderson getting to the bucket, shading the sharp penetration, Anthony Simons moving with the ball, pick and roll. Like, he's going to get a lot of free buckets. Him and Robert Williams are going to get a lot of easy looks at the rim, man. So they're going to benefit a lot just from this young trio of guards that they have.
I said it last night. He's going to give them 22 and 11. That was one of my hot takes. 22
he might get
11.
16. He might get 16 points just off of like easy drop offs from Scoot and Shaden and Simons, man. Like, there's just so much talent in that backcourt. Didn't even mention like rookies. Like Chris Murray's probably going to be good from day one, just because he has that college experience. We saw what his brother can do. Like, they got a lot of talent on that team. Matisse Thybulle, like they are really stacked, man, for a team that just traded their superstar player.
Yeah, they really are. There's a reason I have them at the 11 seed. And like you say, like post trades, I feel like there was a few people that were saying they were a really top heavy team, but assuming Brogdon stays around for a little bit, you have Chris Murray still, you have Thibault still, like there's some decent depth on this team. It's not great. Like if they get a couple of injuries, then they're in some trouble, but they have like a true typical playoff rotation level of depth, which is more than fine for the time being. They got a couple of vets around still, and it looks like they are taking the let's be as competitive as we can be route as opposed to let's tank route with Jeremy Grant starting, with Thibault and Sharp competing for the starting small forward spot. But from a lineup balance perspective, I wouldn't be surprised to see Thibault be that guy who starts. You start looking at Malcolm Brogdon and Shaedon Sharp coming off the bench. That is a crazy bench duo to then be throwing lobs and getting in pick and rolls with Rob Williams. I mean, that 3-man bench unit in of itself has got to put it in best bench in the league type conversations. Young team, a lot of new pieces, but there's still enough proven talent here. I think they should be a very competitive squad, and at the very least, they're going to be a very fun team to watch this year.
I forgot Brogdon was on the roster because in my head, I'm just like, yeah, he's probably going to get flipped, but
yeah, and that's what initial reports said. But for the time being, he's there. So, hey, they might let him mentor Scoot for half a season.
I'm not mad at it at all. Not mad at it at all. When you're playing with a bunch of different guards like that, being able to get that like advice from a guard who plays off the ball, like that could really be good for not just them individually, but them playing together.
Yeah,
looks like we got the same bottom 5 though.
Yeah, I hope Shaedon Sharp. I hope Shaedon Sharp doesn't if he is moved to the bench. Well, back to the bench again, because he probably assumed in a Dame trade he might be starting. But if he's still coming off the bench, I hope he can embrace that role still, because he can still be a super effective player being that guy off the bench too. For right now, I think his talent is higher than that, but it's only year 2. He didn't even play competitive basketball before his rookie season, the year between high school and college. So, hopefully he doesn't take that as like a slap in the face. He can just embrace that role too. This is a big year for Chauncey Billups because it's year 3 for him, I believe, as their coach. And, I feel like I mentioned it, I think last week, like the first couple of years is kind of like a bad hand that he was dealt, because this team, the organization wanted to be competitive, but the pieces weren't there for them to be competitive. So, this is a good chance for him to show, like, if I got good young talent, we can go ahead and make a little bit of noise and maybe, compete for a playoff spot.
I like that. So, like I said, me and Devin have the same bottom 5, though. I don't know if Reek will match us on that, but I did feel like these 11 were like my 11 who had a chance. And I think it makes sense because outside of Devin being real low on New Orleans, just like that same bottom 4, but I have New Orleans here at 11. And that's just I thought that these top 11 were just a little bit step above. And I'm like, all right, who's getting left out? And so then I had to start asking myself, who's the most questionable? And the most questionable is easily New Orleans. You got to think like there's a lot of teams with guys who miss time. We know like Ja Morant suspended. Kawhi and Paul George always miss time. LeBron and AD always miss time. Kevin Durant will probably miss some time. Like all these teams have some players who will probably miss some time. But like the Pelicans legitimately have 2 stars who might miss half a season or more. And the fact that they haven't shown me that they can do that, staying healthy for a whole season, even a single time, I can't put that confidence in them yet to do so. That mixed with Trey Murphy being injured, who I thought was going to step up big time in the place of maybe some guys missing some time. And now it makes me lose a lot of confidence in them overall. The only benefit of the doubt I can give them is that they have managed to stay competitive despite the fact that they've been down these guys for the majority of the past couple of years. But just looking at how this conference is, there's too many questions. So I can't put them top 10.
Yeah, we all got the same bottom 5 because I got New Orleans at 11 too. I mean, yeah, not too much higher than 13, but there's, like you guys said, too many questions, and we haven't seen enough answers in these last couple of years. That is a good point, though, Gabe. Like, Willie Green be finding a way. Like, last year they lost like 13 straight games or some shit like that.
still found a way into the play-in somehow. With Zion missing, 50-plus games. Brandon Ingram missing like 35 games. CJ missing time. Still found a way into the play-in and had a chance to make the play. Like, will the Green be figuring it out? But I think the West, them top 10 teams, man, it's a little too good this year, man. Unless some injuries happen to other big-time teams in front of them. This is a team that they have to get 50 games out of Zion, 55, 60 out of Ingram to really be competitive this year. It's tough out there, man. But, Trey Murphy already, like you said, Gabe, that's just a bad omen. Like him already being nicked up, it's just bad vibes. It's bad voodoo, and New Orleans you just got to take that into account when you talk about this team, man. Their guys are going to miss time, and they're going to suffer because of that.
Was not expecting the Pelicans to be in the bottom 5 to be a consensus take, but I'm definitely not against it.
We got the same 10 in the play-in range, but I wonder if our streak is the same, if we'll all have the same bottom 6. I wonder.
Unlikely.
Top 6?
No, bottoms. We're at the bottoms. I'm saying if our team
okay.
bottom 6. So we might, at least me and Reek might, because my number 10 is a team that Reek is low on every year. And I got Memphis here.
Oh.
And I was very shocked.
Okay.
I don't know, bro. Like I said, I was looking at all these teams and I'm like, who's gonna miss out? And I don't know, bro. The Grizzlies, this Josh suspension, I'm like, well, that's gonna make the beginning of the season a little rougher, even though they traditionally are a bit better or not better, but they usually can keep it going, keep the wins up when he's off the floor. But overall, even then they had Tyus Jones to step up, and he would always come up and replace some of that production. Obviously not the explosive athlete that Ja Morant is, but just a solid point guard that could, just run the ship and keep things steady. And now their whole point guard room is going to be different to start this season, where Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose can be a talented starter and backup, but it's a new situation. And then rebounding on this team, we know Steven Adams, Brandon Clark coming off injuries. That makes it a little bit weird. Jaren Jackson is perennially not a rebounding type guy. Even the wing rotation is going to be different because Dylan Brooks being out is probably going to be addition by subtraction, but there's still some questions there of who's going to fill in where. From top to bottom, this team's just going to have a lot of questions to answer. And like I said with the Pelicans, a lot of questions. I got to hold it against you because I think there's just so many teams that are going to be good. It feels horrible because if you just ask me straight up without looking at a standings list, is Memphis going to make the playoffs this year? Yeah, without a second thought. But there's 10 teams that are they making the playoffs this year? Yeah, absolutely. There's not 10 playoff spots.
Oof. You took I'm always low on Memphis to a new level.
That is tough. I'm not buying the low on the Grizzlies. I'll put that much.
Oh, I can't say I had them dropping, but not from 2 to 10. That might be the hottest take of the offseason, Gabe. I cannot lie.
Is it? Look at these 10 teams, bro.
Give me Jaren in the top 5 defense. That's all I need.
I was
going to be a
say,
top 5 defense.
Is Jaren healthy? Okay, they'll be fine. If they go 15-10 without Ja Morant, that's perfect. They've been better. They've been better than that without Ja Morant in the games that he's missed over the last couple seasons. 15-10 is feasible.
Bro.
Even though there's a change in point guard. Look, as good as Tyus Jones is as that backup guard, Marcus Smart's still really damn good.
I hate this. I hate the take. I hate the take.
You sound like me last year. I had them at 8. I had them at 8, and I'm like, I don't like it. I know it's wrong, but I get it. But it's 10?
No, I hate it.
10?
I want to know who you guys have at 9 and 10 because I hate this take. I don't know who to put that up.
I hate my teams that I have outside of the playoffs or the top 8 because I like both of the teams. I got the Timberwolves at 10.
Woo! I'm gonna call Jelson right now.
Yeah, I hope
Okay.
Justin's
1 to 10, even a bigger drop than Gabe.
Hey man. I got the Timberwolves at 10. I'm just not too bought in. I'm just not too bought in this year, man. I like what Anthony Edwards can provide, but I still have questions about the Cat Rudy Gobert tandem. Rudy regressed last year. Cat was hurt the majority of last season. How is this gonna work, man? Because they didn't even really get to work out the kinks too much last year because Cat missed so much time. So I'm just they're gonna need some big jumps. I can see Jaden McDaniels taking a jump, but they might need a little bit more than that, man. But I got questions about Chris Finch too as a head coach. Like he's been fine, but is he what this team needs to really take that next leap? I think this is gonna be one of those years that they're gonna realize the Rudy trade was actually a complete failure, and we're gonna have to make some moves in this offseason to maximize the talent around Anthony Edwards. It's just how tough the West is, though, because I've been a Minnesota truther the last couple of years. I had them making the playoffs when nobody thought they would in 2021-22. And last year I had them as the 1 seed. So, look.
It's hard, dude. It's hard to see them as like thinking about, especially if you think about it, like if they get into the play-in, who's coming out of it. And it's like, dude, if Minnesota's in the play-in, like I feel like they have to get out of it. They're like the play-in champions. And I just know Anthony Edwards is going to go out there.
You could say that, right? You could say that, but the teams that might be in that range, they also got fucking dudes that can do the same shit.
They do.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough like that. The biggest thing for me with the Timberwolves is I hear what you're saying about not working out the kinks, but you can make the same counter argument for at least Cat is going to be healthy for a large portion of the season. I see elite for McDaniels. Mike Conley's there for the entire season, which I think is a positive for this group. I like the depth additions they made this summer with Milton being in, which is a massive addition compared to what Jalen Noel was last year. So I think there's a few pieces here that can allow them to improve a little bit. I don't think they're going to be world beaters. I'll get to them a few spots down the line here, but number 10 is tough because I don't love the Grizzlies here. I don't love the Timberwolves here. And then you guys probably won't love who I have at 10 either. So it's kind of just how it goes.
It's I could see them being like before I started really making my list, I was thinking like I could see the Timberwolves being like a 6 seed. And I got to making it and I just started pegging people down and all of a sudden they're at 10. I'm like, damn. Can't make it up. But look, I want to be wrong about that because I really like Anthony Edwards. I like what they did at the deadline last year. Again, Mike Conley, really big Nikhil guy. We know this. I hope they are better than this. I want to see this team in the playoffs because I think the talent's definitely there. But this West is just so tough, man. It is so difficult.
With Minnesota, it's just so hard to look at what they did last year and expect them to get worse. Like that was kind of like what I was like. Obviously, we know what teams were going to move up a bit, but as far as who was going to move down because of that, I feel like Minnesota had so much worst case scenario type stuff last year between Cat missing all that time, the Gobert thing not fitting right away, and just so much going against them that it's like they made the playoffs when everything was going against them. And now if things go a little bit better, it's hard to see them getting worse. Whereas where I'm at with Memphis is I can see a reason for them to get worse.
But I can see the counter argument. I can see the counter argument for why they will still be good though. So it's I don't know. It's vibes. It's really just vibes with these lists, man. Because look, I didn't feel good once I got to 11 about any pick until maybe I got to the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, I need to see who Devin's 10 is because it's not the same as us.
I think it's going to be a scorching hot one. I can see it.
I mean, I don't know what's a hot take at 10 because someone's got to be there.
Memphis was the hottest take of the video.
I don't think it's going to be any hotter than Memphis, but this is where I had the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, shit. That's I feel like that's just as hot.
I got them at the same spot I had them last year. I got them as a 10 seed. And this is a team that played very good ball last year, but benefited from a lot of guys who shot the ball at very good rates, at some of the best rates of their career, that benefited from basically no one getting injured, which, sure, a lot of those guys have been available, but Fox has been known to miss a bit of time. Sabonis has been known to miss a bit of time. Harrison Barnes isn't getting any younger, and I don't know if he plays as well as he did last year. So I think they're still a very good team, but they're a team that is still going to be very, very reliant on their offense and their three-point shooting. And the moment that dries up, they're going to struggle because their defense is still going to be very bad. That's just how they're built. That's how they're going to be unless there's significant roster changes on this team and one of their big guys gets moved. That's not happening anytime soon by the looks of it. So fun offensive team still, probably one of the most fun teams in the league. But I don't think they have as good a shooting, as good a health as they did last year. And this bad of a defense, probably the worst defense of any of the teams above them. They're a 10 seed.
Objectively, I think that's got to be just as hot. Because
no, it's not. I'm sorry, Gabe.
It is.
No.
Their team doesn't have a point guard suspended for a quarter of the season.
The reason why
they were one seed lower. They were one seed lower, and they did better in the playoffs.
Oh, they won an extra playoff game.
That shit was real. It was real.
They won an extra playoff game. No, if any team that made the playoffs in the West last year is a candidate for big-time regression, it would be the Sacramento Kings. And I hate to say that, but it would be the Kings. Out of all the teams that made the playoffs last year, it would be Sacramento.
Guys are all saying that, bro, but they're gonna prove you wrong, bro. I'm saying they hear the narrative.
Someone's gonna prove me wrong. There's no way I predict this conference right. Someone's gonna prove me wrong.
Hell no. There's no chance.
One of these guys.
Our three combinations, nobody's gonna be right. I promise you. Like,
are you guys ready for me to kill some narratives?
Go for it.
I'm gonna kill some narratives at number 9.
Yeah.
Y'all can't ever say shit about me again.
It's the Clippers.
I got the Clippers missing the playoffs. That felt cathartic to say. You guys should know that I'm done. I'm no longer a Clippers enjoyer.
Wow.
I can't do it. Because listen, they said, Kawhi, did you hear about the new rule about how the players have to play? He said, no rule's going to make me play. So nothing is changing. Not a damn thing about this team is changing. I don't care what rules they put in place. It was stated. He said, if it was about what happened when I was on the Raptors, I was hurt the whole season. Bro, you've been load managing for 4 years. Listen, nothing's going to change, okay? Nothing. I don't care what new rules put in place. These guys are going to miss time. Outside of a very inconsistent Russell Westbrook, I don't like really what they have at the guard position very much. It's a whole lot of forwards, and then like Westbrook and Zubac. So the roster construction is still a little suspect to me, even if we know there's top-level talent on there. But like I was saying, with New Orleans, with Memphis, when everybody looks good, who has the most questions? And for me, the roundedness of the Clippers roster construction, as well as the inconsistencies of availability with Kawhi and Paul George, and the overall consistency of Russell Westbrook. Somebody had to get the cut.
I don't hate them here. The injury concerns, it's so valid. It's like the Pelicans, they have a little bit more talent. The only thing for me that makes me a little bit more confident in them compared to previous years is at least Kawhi and PG are somewhat healthy going into the season. At least they're both available, and we haven't seen that in what seems like a while. And I feel like Russ being there will help if those guys do miss time, because we know, despite what you feel about Russ at this point in time in his career, despite the problems with Russ at times over the last few years, he raises floors, and he will go out and take a group of guys who aren't great and get them a few wins. Not to mention that Norm Powell's still there, and he's the type of guy who can go out and get 20 on any given night and do a similar type of job. So they have enough high-level type of depth guys with Russ and Norm that I think if Kawhi does miss some time, which is probably likely, and same with Paul George, they can at least tread water and not completely suffer like the Pelicans would, because they have those types of guys that can deal with that type of depth being missed. So injury concerns are there. It's really just, can they get into the dance? And then are they healthy? And I think they can get into the dance. I don't have them at 9. We'll get to them later, but
yeah, that was going to be my point too. Like at least Kawhi if Kawhi is healthy going into it or somewhat healthy going into the season, that's a good sign. Very good sign because there's been what was it? The first year that they were together, Paul George missed like the first 20 games or so. Last season, Kawhi went into the season unhealthy. Missed a decent chunk of the first, couple months of the year. So that's a good sign. Like if Kawhi's playing basketball, they're gonna win games because he's just that good. And he was really good last year when he was on the court too. So yeah, but I see the concerns though. They're definitely a team that could be on that fringe of like just making it into the playoffs or not making it into the playoffs. But if they make it, they're gonna be a dangerous team to face in that first round, no matter who the seed is at the top of the conference. My 9, I really like this team's offseason a lot. But I got the Dallas Mavericks here at 9.
You and me both.
Look, I was thinking in my head, like, can I see Luka missing the playoffs 2 years in a row? With how good the West is, and even though they got better, it was marginally better at certain areas. It's still concerning, man. Is Jason Kidd a good coach or not? I'm leaning towards no. I'm just leaning towards no, just because of the decisions we saw from him last season. And even though the roster wasn't at its greatest, he still wasn't playing guys that we know should have been gotten minutes, right? And even though Kyrie and Luka are that good, it's tough for me to see them trusting in guys like Grant Williams to really have to step up. They're going to be relying on a rookie Derek Lively to play really good basketball really from day one, unless they want to play Dwight Powell again, which God forbid that's the case, right? So a lot of concerns. You lose Reggie Bullock, so Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be like relied upon more. He's a candidate to miss games. He misses a decent amount of time, which is very overlooked, and they need his shooting. So it's tough. I got him at 9. I love their offseason, though. It was a good step, but, too many questions for me and guys that are going to have to step up and play out of their minds.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, too. I mean, there's 2 teams that I think aren't going to be great defensively next year out of these top 10 teams. These are the 2 guys I got at 9 and 10. And like you say, they're relying on a rookie Derek Lively. They're probably going to be relying on a rookie in Omax for significant minutes on the wing this year with a guy like Bullock out of town. I hope Tim Hardaway Jr. doesn't even play that much. I mean, but that's where we're at with Jason Kidd. It should be Josh Green minutes. It should be Jaden Hardy minutes. It should be Seth Curry minutes. They have other guys that should be getting those types of minutes, but Jason Kidd is part of the problem here. And even still, the personnel defensively, like you say, is better. It was a good offseason, but they're relying on rookies. And if those rookies don't perform, then they're relying on a Tim Hardaway Jr., or they're relying on a Dwight Powell, or they're relying on a Rashawn Holmes. Like, the quality is not great outside of Luka and Kyrie. It is better, and I like the fit better. I think the roster construction is better than what it was post-Kyrie trade last year. I think they did about as good of a job as they could have done, but that doesn't mean that it's good. I think give them a year or 2. If Kyrie's still on this roster, Lively's developed more, Omax has proven himself more, maybe Grant Williams improves more. There's something there. There's upside on this roster for the first time in a while that isn't just about Luka, but I don't think this year's their year with where this conference is at. Not to mention the fact that Luka and Kyrie probably miss 10 to 15 games as well, because they're usually pretty good for that.
Yeah, but it's like even Luka was playing out of his mind last year, and for most of the season they were around this point. So it's like those defensive concerns, man. I think this affects them a little more because they don't have the shooting that Sacramento has. I don't think so. So
no, I mean they got Josh Green who shot well last year, Hardy who should shoot well, and Seth Curry. Grant Williams is a solid 3-point shooter, but then it dries up. And I mean that's decent, but it's not Sacramento levels of offense.
Nah, and even as good as shot creators as Luka and Kyrie are, and playmakers too, but it's a lot to remember. If they had a better coach, I could probably buy in, but. Look, Jason Kidd, man, you fool me once, that's on me. Every other time, man, that's on you, man. Like, nah, I probably said that backwards, but
you did.
Yeah, okay. Can't trust Jason Kidd these days to be a head coach after year 1, man. So
definitely not. The year 1 curse is crazy. Just before you give your number 8, Gabe, number 8's where I had the Clippers as well. I already talked plenty on them.
Me too.
The depth is good enough, even with the injury concerns. They're there. Ty Lue's good enough. I can't see how they don't make the playoffs. And once they get there, who knows, as long as they're healthy. But I think they barely squeak in.
Unless their guys miss the play-in, like what happened with Paul George a couple years ago, they will get out of the play-in.
So, yeah, it looks like besides one huge dropper, we're pretty all similar in this range because I have Dallas here. I just like – I don't know, bro. I can't see Luka just not making it in. I can't. It happened last year, and it was like right after the trade, and the roster was gutted, and they were trying to figure out things on the fly. But like a full season of this roster, I feel like Luka's gonna will them there, bro. And especially if they're just good enough to get into that play-in, Luka is good enough to get them a game. If the final like 8-9 game, which in this instance it would be, to decide that play-in spot is like Mavs versus Clippers. That's a series we've seen a couple times in a full 7-game series. And I know historically, Luka balls out on them boys. And while they might not have won those series in the grand scheme, for one game right now, especially knowing the last time the Clippers were in the play-in, all of a sudden there was health and safety protocol and Paul George wasn't playing, and then they fell out. I'm like, if it gets to that play-in scenario, give me Dallas. But overall for the whole season, like, I know they're going to get a ton of production out of their top two guards, of course. And then a lot of it's really banking on Derek Lively to just have some sort of immediate defensive impact. I think just how good he can be right away, or at least over the course of the season, is going to be huge for how good they can be. But definitely some questions, which is why I only have them 1 seed higher than you guys do. But I expect them to get in, just barely.
Yeah, that's definitely valid. I mean, Luke is one of those guys that can get you a game. So definitely see those squeaking in. Kawhi could do the same thing if that's the matchup, but Luke definitely could do it. But there's a lot of guys down here that could do that. So
a Clipper Mavs play-in battle would feed the hood, man. That would be a game.
We know Paul George ain't clutch like that, but Kawhi, Luka, and Kyrie, whoo, damn.
Hey, man.
Could definitely
Westbrook.
It's crazy, though, because my number 7, they kicked off their rebuild by trading Paul George, and now they might be better than Paul George's current team. So looks like Oklahoma City might have taken the dub on that one. I think OKC's going to get in this year. They were right on the doorstep last year. We know they won that first play-in game. They were either right above or right below 500, but right around that range. So I'll say they were just about a 500 team last year. And I think this year they fixed one of their biggest flaws, which was at the big man position. Being able to bring in Chet Holmgren and his defensive impact especially, I think will help them tenfold. We know they have a bunch of talent in the guard positions. We know they have a fair amount of talent at the wing positions. They're just really all I'm expecting is just that internal improvement, taking a step forward in the addition of Chet. Like, I feel like the story pretty much writes itself. You're still going to get star-level production out of Shea. You're going to get a little bit of a jump out of a J-Dub. You're going to get probably a little bit more progression out of like a Giddey. Lou Dort's consistent. Those bench guys, just all that depth you had last year, a couple of those guys probably continue to progress while still being on these super cheap contracts, and they find their way into the playoff at the 7th seed.
Valid. This is where I do have the Sacramento Kings. Regression candidate. I want them to still be really good. I want them to still be a playoff team. But, I mean, the good sign was like Sabonis and Foxworth are so healthy. Hopefully that can remain the same. But can we expect, like you said, Devin, those guys like Herter, Barnes, Keegan Murray, and company to shoot that well over the course of the entire season? That's a question mark for sure. They marginally improved this offseason, but compared to other teams, I don't know. But I am bought into the culture. Like, I really feel like the culture shift when Mike Brown came in and this team has really bought in. That's why I think I could trust them to still be a really good regular season team. Offense wins games in the regular season, and I think they could still win a pretty good amount of games. But with teams that were around them getting better in the offseason, they're just a team that they're probably going to regress because they were so good last year. They were winning a lot of close games because De'Aaron Fox was that good in the fourth quarter.
you just got to expect some of those games probably aren't going to go their way this year. It's just a matter. That's just how the league goes. Like 1 year you might win all the close games, the next year you might split a bunch of those close games. So, that's probably going to be the case for them. But I still think they'll be a really good, really fun team to watch this season.
For sure. Definitely should be fun, if nothing else. But I think a bit of a step back is probably a safe expectation for them. My 7, I know you mentioned earlier, Gabe, they're the playing victors pretty much every year. And I think they'll get out again this year. Give me the Timberwolves as the 7 seed. I think a marginally better year this year, and a team that should be marginally better going into the postseason and how they're fit, assuming they stay healthy. Now, given Cat's injury history the last few years, that's not a given. That's become more of a concern than it was earlier in his career, but hopefully he can stay healthy so we can actually get more of a sample size of what him and Gobert look like together, as opposed to just 10 and 15 game chunks. And we can see if that works out at all, or if it's just as much of a problem as we think it is. But there's enough internal improvement and offseason improvement here for me to believe they should be a little bit more competitive. I like their depth additions. I think Troy Brown Jr. was looked at as a bad replacement in the summer, and even though I don't like the fact that Taurean Prince is gone, I think he should still fill the role well. I think Milton will do a fine job compared to what Jalen Noel was doing for them last year. Naz Reid being back on his extension is big. And they just have enough young guys that they should be able to internally improve. I expect more of a jump from Anthony Edwards. I expect more of a jump from McDaniels. I expect more of a jump from Nickeil Alexander-Walker as he gets comfortable and finds his role even more so now in Minnesota. There's just a lot of reasons to believe in them to continue to improve, even if Cat and Gobert is a bit of a dumpster fire, and even if they do move off of one of those guys before those two and Ant are all making big money next summer, at least for this year, they should be able to remain afloat and be good. Should still be decent defensively. Ant's going to make them a good enough offense by himself. And I think Mike Conley being there for a full season compared to D'Lo is going to be nice for this team. I think he fits what they want and what this offense needs a lot better. So not a great season. Definitely not the 1 seed I was projecting them at last year, but I think they should be in the mix here at the 7 seed.
Okay. So, yeah, our play-in ranges went a little bit different. So, all right. I think probably my number 6 is going to be another team who I'm just going to be the lowest on out of the 3 of us, I guess.
Let me get mine first because you already mentioned it.
Yeah. All right.
I got OKC being a top 6 team. Chet coming back or making his debut is going to be huge for them. Shea being as good as he is, Josh Giddey improving, J-Dub. Even Lou Dort's still very productive for them. Only concern, which we talked about before, they got a lot of talent in their second unit. Who's going to separate themselves? But I think they got enough talent there that somebody will step up and they'll have some really reliable guys in that second unit. Isaiah Joe was like that guy. He was really reliable for them off the bench last year. Maybe a couple more dudes will be able to step up, consistently give them minutes. The other Jalen Williams being able to move to the bench, I think he'll be a fine backup big if he is playing the center position. They got talent, man, and Dagnall coaches them really well. They took that jump last year. I'm glad they didn't make the playoffs because I think this is the year where they're a solidified playoff team because there's a lot of talent there and talent that's ready to win. These guys have probably been, trying to win for a while, man, because they started that rebuild after the bubble. I think they're ready now.
I'll just say, Kong, as I see your comment, I have not named OKC yet, so just hold up on top 6 being crazy.
I had him 7. We knew it. Devin has been pushing this OKC propaganda, so honestly, I kind of expect to see them not even here at 6, but probably not even at 5. I feel like Devin's gonna have him top 4, but we'll see if he proves me right on that.
If Kong thinks OKC at 6 is crazy, bro, you missed Gabe put Memphis at 10.
Bro, come on.
Also had to turn one.
You're like the last guy to talk about being low on Memphis, bro. This is like your first time ever not being low on Memphis.
Hey man, I had to change.
You were tired of being proved wrong, so now it's my turn. I feel like little baby.
Last year, I think the year before, I don't think we started the podcast in the offseason. I think I had them as like a 9 seed, right? Last year I had them at 8. So they're slowly climbing up, man. Slowly climbing up the ladder.
Slowly climbing up. My number 6, though. My number 6, I guess, is slowly climbing up because they go up just 1 seed from last year. I have the Lakers at 6, and I still think they're going to win a playoff series. It just comes down to this Western Conference is going to be really tight, and I think they're a team who's probably more built for the postseason than the regular season. I think at this point in time, LeBron and AD in the regular season is just kind of like, yeah, they're going to miss some time. And so that's probably going to hurt them a little bit, especially if AD misses time. They proved to still be pretty successful with LeBron out for stretches last year with this roster. But they have so much depth that I think they're still going to be good regardless. It's just more of a fact of, like, if you think, like, the last couple of years of even, like, LeBron and the Cavs, like, they were always good, but they were a little bit more relaxed in the regular season and really ramped it up come playoff time. So I'm predicting them the lowest of the three of us as far as regular season standings. But like I said, I think they're easily a top 4 team in this conference, and I think they'll get out of the first round, even if I have them here at 6.
Is it the lowest? Dave, you haven't given your 6, have you?
I've not given my 6, but it is not the Lakers. It is not the Lakers.
You know, I don't know why. I thought that was a team that we'd all consensusly have in, like, the top 4, I would say.
I wouldn't be surprised if Denver's the only team that's consensus anywhere at the top of this list. I think that just might be the way it goes. So
I guess I just figured because we all talk so highly about their off season and kind of agreed, like,
yeah, but I'm very high.
I see why.
Right.
Yeah, I see why.
They're going to win a playoff series. They're a top 4 team in the conference. I think they're just going to be a little bit more relaxed in the regular season. I don't think that's when your 2 top guys have won a ring together already, but regular season wins are not the goal.
Yeah. It's consistent with your list, too, because you talked about guys missing time. Like, you said Ja missing time. It's going to hurt them. Pelicans, Clippers. AD and Bron are, like, prone to missing time at this point in their careers, too. So,
but their depth is so much better.
Insane.
Definitely better. But yeah, this is not where I have the Lakers. This is where I have the Grizzlies. I do actually have them falling a bit for once this year. I'm not putting them super high this year, but there's just too much talent to remain a top 2, top 3 seed with Ja missing this much time. The other concern is I am really worried about their depth this year at all. It just doesn't exist. I mean, Marcus Smart will be able to fill the void while Ja is out, and Derrick Rose is a fine backup. But Brandon Clark is out for most of us, not all the season. And we have no idea if anyone's going to produce positive minutes for them on the bench for their wings. I mean, is Jake LaRavia going to step up? Is David Roddy going to step up? We just don't know what that's going to look like at the time being. So we're just having a lot of questions there with, I mean, like you said earlier, Gabe, Dillon Brooks could be addition by subtraction, but they still need someone to replace that role. They need someone to fill in. I mean, Luke Kennard's going to come in and get some of those minutes, but the role is vastly different. He's going to come in and be a good shooter, but who's going to defend for them on the wing? And Desmond Bane can do it to a point, but Desmond Bane should not be like your primary quote-unquote wing defender. He just doesn't have that type of size. If he's got to go out and deal with Paul George's and Kawhi Leonard's on a regular basis, especially come the postseason, that's going to be a problem. But even in the regular season for these predictions, that's going to have some problems on some nights. And Marcus Smart, again, same thing. He's a great defender, but just purely from a height standpoint, it's going to cause problems. So that's the biggest concern for me for the Grizzlies outside of Ja Morant, because I still think they're going to be quite good without him. I think they're still going to be around or above 500 type team, just solely based on the fact that Jaren makes this team such a good defensive team. And I think their offense will still hold afloat with Kennard spacing likely coming into the starting lineup in his absence, with Marcus Smart now being there. So they still have good point guard play. I think they'll be fine without him. I'm honestly more concerned about the fact that Brandon Clark's probably out for the year. That's a big miss for them. They really need his rebounding. They really need his defense. I mean, Santi Aldama is just nowhere near as impactful a player as he's going to be for them. So concerns for Memphis. I think this is the worst depth they've probably had. Still, the defense is there. It's going to be a top 3 defense. That's enough to put them up here. Once Jaw's back, this team is still one of the best in the West, but the depth is scary. I can't put them any higher.
They're at least top 10 in the West. At least a top 10 team.
The thing, like, Taylor Jenkins be figuring shit out, though. Like, They be saying Pat Riley be finding a way. Taylor Jenkins do too. Like,
that's literally probably my worst take of all time. But I just didn't know
it's
who else
fine.
to put down there.
It's fine. I had him at like 8 last year, bro. And I prefaced it saying like I know this is gonna be wrong, but
yeah, I hate it. I hate the take. I'm glad like my 8, my 9, like we're just kind of flipped from you guys.
But. Yeah. I got Memphis at 5. Yeah, Dylan Brooks might have been like an issue last year, but like you mentioned, Devin, how the hell are they gonna replace those minutes? They got guys, they got young dudes, but like I'm seeing, like I follow some Memphis fans on Twitter, like they wanted to be Zaire Williams, and I'm like, I liked him his rookie year. Last year, it just wasn't there when he was on the court, and he just kind of fell out of the rotation completely. And like Laravia was getting more minutes, Conchar was getting minutes, Roddy was getting a lot of playoff minutes. This was a guy Zaire Williams was playing in the playoffs last year, like starter level minutes. So, maybe he can't be the guy, but even so, man, like a lot of questions. But having Jaren will be good because he's somebody that levels out that defense no matter who you really have on the court. He's just that damn good. And with Steven Adams getting back healthy, that's going to help them a lot. They miss his rebounding the back half of the season really bad, so that'll help. But I can still see them being in this range though, because like Taylor Jenkins is that good of a coach. Marcus Smart is that good of a player, even though he's coming into a new scheme, new system. He's going to affect winning one way or another. So in those John Morant 25 games where he's gone, I think they'll be able to still weather the storm. And like I said, if they're 15-10 out of those 25 games, that's a W for me. Because when Ja comes back, he affects winning so much for this team offensively. But when they get to the playoffs, there's a whole boatload of questions that they're going to have. So they might be worse off last season than this season when they get to that point.
Well, I'm glad to know you guys don't have them still like top 3 or something. Because if my 10 seed was top 3 on you guys' list, that'd be a little crazy. My number 5 finally gets above the play-in, bro. Give me Minnesota. I kind of alluded to it earlier when I said last year they were still able to make it into the postseason with like everything going against them. I feel like this year there's no way they don't get better. There still should be some internal improvement with Ant getting even better, McDaniels getting even better, and then just the fact that Cat, we assume, will not miss like half of the season this year because perennially he's been a pretty healthy guy. It was just like mainly the outliers were like the pandemic causing some weird stuff and then having the big injury last year. So like I don't really have concerns about him missing a bunch of time this year. And him and Gobert, there's no way having a full off season, now a whole season in the same system, even though there was the injury. But all this time, I feel like they have to find a way to play a little bit better together. And just overall at that rate, I just don't see a world where they don't improve at least a little bit. So I have them jumping up to 5.
That's definitely valid. I think I was alluding to similar things. I just don't think they're quite going to be as high, but there's rooms for them to improve. And if Cat's healthy, especially where you believe he will be, I'm a little bit more skeptical. But if Cat's healthy, then there's definitely a world where they're up here. They could even borderline push for the top 4 seed if everything goes perfect. But I think 5 is definitely reasonable for them.
I had them at 5 last year. And I literally, because you guys both had them at 1 and I had them at 5, and I think you guys had the Clippers at 5 and I had the Clippers at 1.
We really drunk the Kool-Aid so bad on them last year.
Yeah, you guys were so high on them, but I'm in the exact same spot because last year, Cat missed half the season. A lot of things went bad for him. So this will be the actual time to the 5 seed. Trust.
That might be my worst take ever.
It literally wasn't even just your take. You guys both shared the take.
Well, I'll speak for myself. I don't know how Devin feels about his takes that have been bad, but that's up there for me. It's up there.
Yeah, it's probably up there with mine too. That my 2 worst last offseason takes were definitely that and Donovan Mitchell being the 6th best shooting guard. Those are definitely my worst 2.
Memphis at 8 and 9, and they finished top 2 both years. It's pretty bad as well. So
yeah, those are definitely tough. Those are definitely tough.
But predicted Tyler Hero to win 6th Man of the Year though, so I'll take that.
I'll only remember that one.
Yeah.
My 5 seed, team that hasn't been named yet, similar to your pick with the Lakers, Gabe. I'm worried about some injuries, and I have way less trust in the depth. This is where I have the Phoenix Suns finishing next year, and the offense is going to be great. There's no doubt about that. They got KD, they got Beal, they got Booker. But the defense, I don't trust it. The depth, Lord knows what they're going to do with the rotations. At least it's not Monty doing the rotations now, so maybe they'll get a little bit more stability there, even though I do like Monty more as a coach than I do Vogel, but we'll see how he does there. Maybe he gets them playing somewhat decent defense compared to what they could be doing otherwise, but I don't like the defensive personnel. Beal's had injury problems the last few years. We know KD's going to miss time. Booker's been healthy. Hopefully last year was just a fluke and we don't see that become more of a trend for him. So we'll see what we get from this Suns team in the postseason. It's going to be reliant on the depth. But in the regular season, they're not worried. They got vets, especially with KD. We know he's going to miss time. I don't know what they're getting from their depth. So I'm expecting a good regular season, just not a great one, especially when they're integrating like 11 new pieces and a new head coach. There's going to be a lot of adjustments, a lot of roles that need to be figured out. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get comfortable here.
Okay.
Valid.
I understand the concerns. I'm a little higher on them, I think, but I'm known to be pretty pro Phoenix. So,
Are you?
I think so. I had them to win the championship last year.
True. Okay. Post KD trade, we're talking. Okay, gotcha.
All right. So top 4 time? Is everybody giving their 5, right?
Yeah. It is indeed top 4 time.
All right. I have a repeat at 4, so I'll get it out of the way. I got Sacktown. I think they're hearing the narratives, bro. I think they're the fluke. They're going to regress. So I think they're going to come out hungry, bro. Like, they kept most of their guys. They're not really worrying about any big changes, losing anybody, where a lot of teams here are in a bit of new situations, guys finding new roles. They get to come in knowing day one exactly who's their 1 option, who's their 2 option, exactly how they're going to run the offense, exactly how the defense is going to work out. Even if it's not great, they know what they're doing. The consistency, I think they'll be just fine. De'Aaron Fox, we know what he's going to bring you every day. Even if he doesn't have like the same level of clutch performance, I still think he'll have a very high level season. And then Sabonis, for as much shit as we want to give him for how he does in the postseason, for how he really looked in that whole Warrior series, every regular season comes around and he gives you the very consistent star level production year in, year out. And I think that will just continue to translate to Sacramento being a successful team, even if they might not be still built for the playoffs because Sabonis is limited. As far as the regular season goes, I really feel like they're just going to still have that chip on their shoulder because kind of like with Memphis a year ago where like they had the 2 seed run and everybody was a little low on them the year after and then they did it again. I think Sacramento had their really good year. People are like, yeah, but they're not going to do it again. So I think they will just have that chip on their shoulder of, nah, we need to prove that we're really here to stay.
I definitely can see it. But I think we have to see a nearly perfect season again. I just don't know if that happens. I really don't know if that happens. Credit to them if it happens, but the offense needs to be perfect again. The availability needs to be perfect again. It's a lot to buy into when there's a lot of teams that improved and they didn't. It's tough for me to put them this high.
It's off dog alone. Heart and soul.
Yeah, Sackets up top 4. I wouldn't be I hope so, but man, that's tough. That's a good point, Colin. Like it was a feel-good story last year. They might have a little bit of a target on their back. Like this was a top 3 team last season.
I don't think they're the hunted, bro, because people are like, bro, people are so low on them. You guys are both more low.
Who's people? Who's people though? It's
our teams, our teams like that.
Yeah.
That's the question, really. Like, are the Lakers prepping for a Kings game and not worried about the Kings? Probably not. They might not be worried about the defense, but they're keen in on their shooters and they're worried about that offense for sure.
And it's the way the league goes, man. Like, it's rare to shoot extremely well year in, year out. At least your entire core.
Like they really hit
at that level, at least.
Everybody shot so good last year.
And that was a historically good offense.
Yes. Yes, but look, I still like Zach, though. If Sabonis and Fox can stay healthy, they're still going to be really competitive. They don't miss a lot of time. They can be really – I could see like a Keegan Murray jump. Maybe he like becomes more of a focal point offensively. I could see that happening. But, man, it'll take a lot for them to, I think, reach top 4 again.
Yeah. I don't think you're low on them, Kong. I had them at 10 and Reek had them at 7. So this is comfortably the highest they're being put between the three of us. But a lot of disparity with the Kings this year.
Well, yeah, we all got a different top 4. Like that tells you everything you need to know about the Western Conference.
I mean, 2 of my top 3 ain't been named yet. So
really,
looks like we're pretty unanimous as what teams are getting kind of good here.
I'll be naming them. I'll be naming one of those teams right now. I got the Warriors at 4.
Okay,
Gonna say the 4. As long as Steph's playing, as long as they got their core, they're gonna be really good. If Steph doesn't miss a lot of time, they're gonna win a lot more games. The road woes, I think they'll conquer those this year. I'm not saying they're gonna be the road warriors like they were like every year they won a championship, but they're not gonna be whatever they were. Like, did they win like 8 games on a like? It was something crazy like that last year.
That's horrible.
They're not gonna be that bad. They'll probably be closer to 500. I'll say, but. Only concern, like the depth is still a very like valid concern, I think, for this team. It still wasn't even great last year. They added some pieces, like maybe Rudy Gay can provide some type of decent veteran backup minutes and stuff. Chris Paul obviously coming in is big, but is this finally the year where we see Kuminga and Moody like be rotational pieces throughout the course of the season? They're gonna need that. We kind of discussed this a few weeks ago. They're gonna need those guys to really step up. Because the one thing that's been prevalent about the Warriors over the last decade is their depth, strength in numbers. Like they're a team that has a lot of guys that can come in, give quality minutes. Even a couple years ago when they won the championship, guys like Otto Porter stepped up. Bielitsa stepped up off that bench. Like, who's going to be those guys in that second unit that are going to step up? Maybe a Chris Paul addition can help a Kuminga. Maybe he can help a Moses Moody. Because Chris Paul with like younger players has been very good, like over the course of his career. We saw what he did in OKC. Maybe that can help. Got to see it though. But I still think they'll be really good. They're gonna have a chance to win the championship this year because Steph Curry's that good, and him along with Draymond Green, Klay Thompson still playing pretty solid basketball. Kevon Looney, they're still gonna be a really good basketball team.
I'm very glad to see that the Warriors are top 4 on all of our lists. I wasn't quite sure where they were going to fall, but I'm glad the Warriors are getting the respect that they probably deserve when you consider the fact that, like you say, their road woes were definitely a thing last year. But I do have them higher still than 4. This is where OKC finally get named for me. And it shouldn't really be a shock. I've been saying they were going to be a top 4 seed for about 4 months now.
Yep.
And there was a little bit of time where I thought they might slip out of that. But despite the offseason moves, despite any trades, despite any signings, I still think they're a top 4 seed. And part of it's internal improvement, whether it be Shea, whether it be Giddey. I think most notably is going to be J-Dub. I really believe in what he's going to be as a talent for this team, but I think he's going to continue to improve. And even though Paolo should have been way more of a media consensus rookie of the year last year, J-Dub still had a great rookie season. It was a very efficient rookie season. I expect a lot more from him. The biggest concern is the shooting. Similar to my love for Orlando, it's going to be a very good defensive team. And who's the good shooters? I mean, Giddey's not a great 3-point shooter. Shea's not a great 3-point shooter. J-Dub's okay, but not great. Dort's inconsistent as all can be. Where does the shooting come from? We'll see. That's why Isaiah Joe is so valuable to this team. We'll see who else can step up off the bench, like you were alluding to earlier, Reek. Who are those guys? Does Cason Wallace have a good rookie season? Does Ousmane Dieng take a jump this year? He looked good in Summer League. Maybe we get a bit more production from him. He looked like a bit of an improved shooter. So those are the questions. But the biggest thing, like you alluded to, Chet's playing. That's the biggest thing for this team. And so many things with OKC last year screamed, we need an actual big. Because last year they were playing bench power forwards at center for the majority of the year, just to be completely honest. I mean, Jalen Williams and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, fine players. But they're not even true centers, especially not Jalen Williams. And if they are going to be, they should be centers off the bench, not starting. So the fact that Chet now comes in, as much length as he has, as good as a rim protector as he's going to be, already impressed in his first preseason game for as much as that's going to matter, but he looks like he's back. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He looks like he's going to fit in. He's going to immediately be a good rim protector, if nothing else. He's going to be able to hit some threes, which not many other guys on this team are going to do, but he's going to have a little bit of spacing in that regard. And just the fact that they have a lob threat, that they have a play finisher on the offensive end, they didn't have that last year. If Shea or Dub or Giddey were getting dribble penetration, especially with Shea and Giddey as good a passers as they are, there was no lob threat. There was no vertical spacing. There was none of that. It just didn't exist on this team last year. I mean, a little bit from Poku, but Poku wasn't exactly playing that much either, as he's kind of fizzled his way out of this rotation. So that value from Chet, yes, from his rim protecting standpoint, but also from how much he's going to offer from a lob threat, from a play finisher, from the vertical spacing and what that'll open up for Shea and Giddey for their own buckets and for buckets around the rim for Chet. It just opens up so much more to this team. It fixes a lot of their problems, even on the glass. Great offensive rebounding team last year, but one of the worst defense rebounding teams. Chet comes in and fixes that to some extent as well. So Chet just fixes pretty much everything that they were bad at. They're not going to be a perfect team. The three-point shooting is still a question, but Chet is just going to completely change what they're going to do. Plus the bit of internal improvement, top 4 seed for me. Might be a top 4 seed that disappoints in the playoffs just because they're a young and inexperienced team, depending on who that 5 seed is. Like if they have to play the Suns in the first round and they're healthy, like in my standings predictions, they might lose that. And I'm not really going to be too harsh on them for it, but this is going to be a really young and driven team to do well in the postseason. I think a top 4 seed is very much in the cards.
I like it. I like the OKC respect. You're really high on like having that one team just make that huge run. You picked one for each conference of like Orlando going up super high, then in this conference OKC going up super high. Whereas I was a little bit more relaxed. I'm like I got the new up and comers at like 6 or 7. You know, guess I was a little bit more conservative in my picks.
Someone's kind of been doing it every year in the West the last few years, so I felt like it's kind of par for the course. Like the Kings have done it, the Grizzlies have done it, the Suns have done it. Like there's kind of been someone that's done it almost every year the last 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, someone's going to break the streak eventually, but I think OKC are probably that team to make the jump this year.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I guess going to their number 3, I'll just finish up the Warriors talk. Put some goddamn respect on the Golden State Warriors, man. I'm happy we all were high enough on them to see them being towards the top of this conference. And my main point was just Wiggins, bro. Wiggins is literally the second best player on this team, and he missed most of last year. And it wasn't injury stuff, so we know he's going to come back, and he even looked good when he was back at the end of last year and in that playoff run. So no concerns about him just having an effective season. But you know, Steph Curry still being, to me, a top 5 player in the world. Andrew Wiggins being a very quality second option. Then beyond that, having guys like Clay and Draymond still able to play their roles. Kevon Looney being one of the best role players in the league. They got Gary Payton back. I think Chris Paul can do some fun things with that bench lineup. He feels like a guy who, like, if he's out there with a guy like Looney or even a guy like Kuminga, like, I think some of them are players who are, like, just the right kind of guys to play with Chris Paul. He can really maximize their talents. So even though Chris Paul is not the level of player that he used to be, I think him being in a bench role will allow his talents to shine and leading them and being that lead playmaker for them, for that bench unit. And even if they're staggering minutes, I think he's going to be just fine playing alongside a Steph Curry, a Klay Thompson, and spreading the ball out to them. I think the guy who his fit is the most weird with is Draymond, because they're both going to be looked at to be primary playmakers more than anything. But overall, I still think they have a really solid squad here. I think this is a team that has been winning together forever. And like you guys mentioned, like, you can't be that bad on the road again. And they've always protected home court. So imagining they get around 30 home wins because they're just always that good at home, and then them going 500 on the road is already like towards 50 wins.
Yeah, I forgot. Like, I don't know how I keep forgetting about Andrew Wiggins, but that is like a big ad because he missed so much time last year.
So much, and they were still like 6.
Yeah, and won a playoff series. So, I mean, look, Chris Paul's going to find a way to affect winning no matter who he plays with, because he's, even at his age, he's still just that good. Like, his IQ is that high. He's going to have a big impact playing with Kuminga. Gives them another like pick and roll guy too, because I remember when they played the Lakers in the playoffs, Steph had to start running a lot of pick and rolls because of the way they were guarding him. And now like Steph can be able to roam off the ball a little more. Chris Paul can be a pick and roll guy. Like gives them a curveball that they haven't really had too much of. It's going to be an interesting look, and I'm excited to watch it.
Definitely looking forward to it too, but I'm still putting them higher. This is not where I have the Warriors yet at number 3.
Let's go.
This is where I have the LA Lakers. And for pretty much all the reasons you mentioned earlier, Gabe, they're not going any higher. You just evidently had them a few spots lower. LeBron and AD are going to miss time. They're getting into the latter stages of their career, especially in LeBron's case, and expecting them to miss some time, expecting them to have some load management. It's just going to be par for the course. I just trust what they have around those guys so much that I think they're still going to be a very competitive regular season team. We saw what Reeves could do when they had guys missing time last year and how he could help them on the offensive end. They have D'Lo and Gabe Vincent back now to help run the offense a bit as well. So they have a ton of guys who can create their own shot a little bit, who can play make a little bit. They're not elite tier guys, but Reeves can do it to an extent. D'Lo can do it to an extent. Vincent a little bit less so. He'll be more out there as a shooter on this team, I would expect. But they still have plenty of talent. They have enough shooters now, and Rui being back again to be another guy who can give them some three-point shooting off the wing and can create a little bit of his own bucket. But the biggest thing is just their defense. I think their defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. We know what AD is going to do, but even without AD, Vando does his thing. And there's enough guys on this team now where they've built in this mentality that they're going to be a good defensive team. They had that a few years ago when they won a title. They lost that for a little bit when they were struggling, and it's back again now. They've embraced that. They've got the personnel for it. I think that they should be a very competitive roster as long as AD and LeBron don't miss a ton of time, but as long as they miss a reasonable amount of time like they did last year, I think they should be in with the top 4 seed.
Look, defensively, this core reminds me a lot of the team post-bubble, the 2021 team where it was like Dennis Schroeder, Wesley Matthews. Like, even though Brown didn't miss time, they fell off offensively, but defensively, they were still like a top 2 team in the league that season. Like, they were still damn good. And I'm glad that they bought back into that identity because, look, defense still wins championships, man. And that's – if you have an Anthony Davis, you got a LeBron who's such a methodical guy, you don't need to have a high-powered offense with those guys because they're going to find ways to make winning plays down the stretch. But defensively, you got to be locked in. You got to put pieces around them that can guard. And you look up and down their roster, like they got guys at every position that are at least average defenders, or at least they can't really get picked on too much in a playoff series, right? And I got them at 3 as well because their regular season depth is going to pay dividends for when AD and Bron do miss time. You mentioned Reeves, you mentioned D'Lo. Like, they just got guys that can step up and have nights. So if Bron and AD do miss a little bit of time, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be able to weather the storm. Defensively, they're so good. I think Darvin Ham gets a little too much flack from Laker fans. He was a quality coach last year. He's only going to improve a second year under his belt. So they're going to be really good this year, even if Bron and AD do miss time. Hopefully AD, we mentioned last week, he wants to play all 82. We know that's not going to happen, but if you can get north of like 60, 65, that's a W season, and they're going to win a lot of games that Anthony Davis does play in.
Yeah, they're that caliber of team. They're definitely to a top 3 level. That's why I mentioned I definitely think they'll win a playoff series. And really, where I had them at 6 to where they are at 3, like for you guys, looking at the actual Western Conference last year, 3 to 6 was like a 4-game difference max. So like at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, if they're that high, if they're even higher than that, if they ended up getting like 1 or 2, I'm still not even that surprised because, like you guys mentioned, with their defensive core being really good, I mean, that can win you a lot of regular season games if your top guys are there or not. So very, very good take having them that high, and I think what'll be a very common take among fans. But top 2, I'm thinking. I know there's one team that everybody hasn't mentioned.
Did you give your 3?
Me, yeah, I had Golden State.
Oh, okay. Forgot.
So, yeah, of the top 2, I'm trying to think of Wait, am I missing somebody?
I think we got the same teams, Gabe.
Yeah.
Devin, who do you have at 2? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Who you haven't
My
said
2
yet.
is the Warriors. My 2 is the
Oh,
Warriors.
you haven't said them yet. That's
I have
right.
not said them yet. I'm high on the Warriors this year for all the reasons you guys said. Wiggins is back. The road games have got to be better. And I know you mentioned it earlier, Reek, with depth being a bit of a concern. I think it should be a little bit better this year. I think I liked what we saw from Moody towards the end of last year and into the postseason. Kevon Looney's still there. Gary Payton's back for a full season now and actually healthy. So that should help. Kuminga, hopefully we see something more, but even outside of that, Rudy Gay should give them a little bit of something. Maybe Cujo gives them a little bit of something. I think a really underrated addition is going to be Dario Saric, assuming he can return healthy and stay healthy. I think he's going to be similar to the Bialica addition a couple of years ago. He just might be even better than that, as a little bit more consistent three-point shooter and a better defender. Not saying Saric is a great defender, but he's better than Bialica was. So I think they have some solid depth that's not quite as good as it was when they won the title. As far as the quality of it, I don't think. I think Gary Payton back then was probably better. They don't have Otto Porter, evidently, but I think the Dario Saric addition will be good. Gary Payton being back is important. So there's a lot to like with this team still. Chris Paul should fit in well. I think that's going to be a valuable addition because evidently the Jordan Poole situation had to be moved on from for pretty much everyone involved. So I think this should be a very well improved team, especially in the regular season. Postseason, that's another can of worms. But just having Wiggins back and assuming they look like a good team again on the road instantly shoots them up to the top few seeds in my eyes.
You know what's funny, though? You talk about the depth, like, from the championship team a couple years ago. Even that didn't look great on paper. But it seems like the Warriors typically always find guys that play well within their system, and it just elevates their play, elevates their status. Like, Bialica was playing, like, valuable minutes for them on that championship team. And this is a guy that's not even in the league anymore. Like, it's just crazy. So it's like a guy like Dario Saric is going to fit right into their offense just because of the talented offensive player that he has been in his career as like a backup, big type of guy. He's going to fit right in. And look, they got Steph Curry. Steph Curry's going to win you a lot of games, man, in the regular season. Like, I think he's going to have a big, big, big season.
Definitely.
Like,
I agree.
He's going to be super – could get, like, back to All-NBA first team type of year, man, if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I would not doubt it. The other name I forgot, too, that I want to give a shout-out to is Brandon Pajemski. I think he could have a not great season, but I think he could be a guy who steps in well as a rookie and gives them some solid contributions as well.
Yeah, I like their draft. Solid offseason. Wiggins back.
I love the Warriors.
That's a championship team again, man.
Definitely.
But, I think me and Reek might have the same number 2 because it's looking like we might have unanimous number 1 out here. And my number 2 is Phoenix. Last year, after the KD trade, in games that KD played, they literally did not lose a single one. And does that mean they're going to go 82-0? Absolutely the fuck not. But does it mean that at least in the regular season, this core of the Suns with KD is a recipe for success? Yes, it absolutely does. And I think when we're looking at their depth, here's the thing about it is that, yes, when you get into playoff runs and playoff series against the top teams in the league, yes, it might be a little bit mid. But as far as just having guys that you can throw out there in game 43 of the regular season to play you some solid minutes, I think they have a lot of those guys. Like Eric Gordon can be that. Even guys like Nazir Little can probably be that. Like there's people on this roster that can play some solid minutes for them, even like Josh Okogie. A lot of guys like that once it comes playoff time, you might be like, I don't know if that's who I want out there. But at least for the regular season, I think they can do just enough to where that very strong core of Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, they can get the job done, bro. Like, as far as a regular season game, it's hard to bet against those 3 guys just literally just outscoring you.
I was really scared you were going to say Nurkic when you were naming their core.
I thought he was there. Scared. I thought he was there too.
I didn't bring up his name for a reason. That's probably like my least favorite move they made, to be honest. But at least it got him like a Grayson Allen and like a little bit more depth, you know.
Yeah, they got marginally worse at center.
Best shooter on the roster, Yuta Watanabe. Come on.
They got guys. They got bodies. Who separates themselves? That's to be seen. I got them as two as well. You mentioned earlier, Dev, like Book missing time last year was kind of like a rarity. Like he's somebody that's typically more than available than what he was last year. He missed a lot of time last year. Book's on the court, even like we expect KD to miss time at this point. Like I can't get behind KD playing like 65, 70 games anymore. It's just not happening, right? Even if he misses time, Bradley Beal will probably miss a little bit of time too, because that's just the kind of guy he is. If Book's out there, they'll still win some games. They'll still win plenty of games, man. And look, they got enough depth pieces that I think are somewhat reliable to where they'll be fine. They'll be fine during the regular season. Playoffs, like you said, Gabe, bigger questions there, bigger fish to fry. But we're talking about regular season standings. I think they'll have enough to win a lot of games this year. So I got them too. If they could get like 70 out of KD or like 65 or something like that, they could push for the 1 seed for sure. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they got it. But KD's prone to missing time, coaching change, but still they'll have enough to win a ton of games this year.
KD usually has a couple like 2 to 4 week injuries throughout the season, so I think 60 is probably like what you'll get out of him.
If we're lucky, he might be 55.
That might be the top end.
He might be a 50,
more of a 45, 50 at this point, but
yeah,
we'll see. I will say, now that we've named the picks, I don't think there's much between my Suns at 5 and Warriors at 2. Like there's probably only 3 or 4 wins there at most.
Yeah.
There's a very small gap. I don't know if the Grizzlies at 6 are my breaking point. They might be a little bit closer to 5 than they are to 7, but I mean, this whole conference is just like it's close. It's very close. It's close to predict, and by the time it's all done, I don't expect whatever order they go in. I don't expect it to be very differing as far as win totals.
The glazing of Denver is insane, bro.
It's just if they're locked in, like there's no reason why they won't win 56, 57 games. And that's probably enough to get the 1 seed this year.
They got the 1 seed last year with like a late season slide.
And look,
and
I think
getting back in the lineup.
Yeah, the West is better this year, but I think Denver coming off that championship, I think they'll be better too. Even though they lost some guys in the offseason, I think they're a team that's going to find a way to get guys, rookies, to step up, and guys like Reggie Jackson might have a resurgence, be a solid backup point guard. Like they're just that type of team, man. You got Jokic, you're going to win a ton of games. Jokic was winning 47, 48 games with Will Barton as his number 2 guy.
And that's a Will Barton who's not in the league 2 years later.
Yes. Monte Morris.
Raptors legend Will Barton. Sheesh.
Bro, like Austin Rivers was like a prominent piece for the Nuggets. Like, bro.
Campazzo was a very valuable piece. Like
Campazzo, that's
team healthy, Jamal back, Jokic doing his thing, MPJ's healthy going into the season. Who knows what we'll get outside of that, but they're healthy. They're ready to go. They drafted guys in the draft who are multi-year college guys who should transition relatively well. So they got some depth to replace, but I expect a couple of those guys and or Peyton Watson to fill in. I don't see a world they're not a 1 seed.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to like win like 65 games or some shit like that, but I just think they'll more than comfortably be the 1 seed. Like they'll probably have like a 3-4 game lead by the end of the season.
I would agree with that.
This West might look a lot like what we see in like the 2010 season, where a lot of teams won a lot of games. The 2014 season, I think, where like some good teams missed out on the playoffs, because I just think this West is just that good, man. It's tough. Like I got the Timberwolves at 10. They could be over 500 as a 10 seed. Like that's just how good the West is, bro.
Yeah, they definitely could.
Yeah, I can say I don't see the world where the Grizzlies go sub 500 and
Yeah, it'd be interesting if you wrote wins out. Like, how many wins would you have Memphis? Like 42 or something like that? 43?
Probably. I think something like that, yeah.
The East was like that a couple years ago. Like, the Hornets won like 43 as a 10 seed or something like that.
Yeah, they did. And then it was a pretty big drop-off after that. But that's the weird thing is I don't think there's a big drop-off outside the top 10 unless like a couple of teams get really injury-riddled, and I don't think the bad teams are really bad. So it's going to be interesting to see how that win split comes out. When I did my records the other day, I had like the Kings are my 10 seed. I had them at 43 wins.
Yeah,
that's the 10 seed. But then I had the 6 seed at 46 wins and the 5 seed at 46 wins. So like there's just not much there. There's really not much there.
Might be I don't want to say the toughest Western Conference, but it's tough every year. But this is just it feels different this year predicting it.
It definitely does. It's a really tough one to do. That's for sure.
It's just a lot of like close teams. I feel like for the longest time, like in the really strong, like think of like the strong East of like the 2000s, right? Like there was a couple teams in there. Like you knew like the Mavericks and the Spurs were always going to be kind of around the top of the conference, and there was some predictability there. It was just when you got a little bit lower, like okay, who's going to make the cut and who's not. Whereas here, it's like, yeah, a team that one of us has at like top 4, another one has maybe even missing the playoffs, you know?
That's crazy parity, bro. Oh my goodness.
It is crazy. It is crazy how that divvied out.
I think what made it like more tough, like it seems like most years like there's a team that easily had an off season where either they got worse or they just like intentionally hit the reset button. Like Utah last year, that was a team that dropped drastically, obviously. This year, like, there wasn't really a team that's, like, did that. Like, Portland did, but they were already at the bottom. So, like.
Right. Portland blew it up and he actually went up on. So, I think they're literally better than last year on 2 of your guys'
mistakes. And, like.
Wait, were they the first? Weren't they, like, 13 last year?
Something like that. They were bad.
Because Dallas was 11 and Utah was 12. Yeah, they were 13 last year. So literally,
I was referring to where I had them in my predictions, but yeah, from where they were.
They started starting a rebuild and going up on 2 of our lists.
And there's teams like we all spoke like positively about Dallas's offseason. 2 of us have them at 9. Gabe had them at 8. And he has him at 8 because he's like, I can't see Luka missing the playoffs twice. Like, the West is crazy.
And man. I say that is quite literally before the pod, I recorded a video talking about the Mavericks offseason and how it was a very good offseason and what they prioritized and the fact that they did a good job. Like, they did about as good of a job as they could have done at getting what they needed. It's just not enough.
What's the Memphis at 10, Gabe? I will say that's like insane. Insane. Like, if that ends up being right, bro, you might be like a psychic or something.
Yeah, either that's going to be the case or we're going to be 2 weeks into the season and they're sitting in a 3 seed and it's going to be like, Gabe, what's going on?
They're going to go like 19-6 without John
Morant. You know what, y'all? With Sacramento sitting at the 4 seed.
Stand on business, man. Stand on business.
Sacramento sitting at the 4 seed, when Sacramento sitting at the 2 seed in like January.
Look, the Timberwolves one I don't love for me. Outside of that, I'm fine with every other like placement. But I would have loved to have Minnesota in the top 6. But
it brought me joy to put the Clippers out.
I'm slightly worried about the Clippers, to be honest. I think they could be much better. I think they could be much better because like they're actually healthy to start a season. And I know like there's going to be load management and they'll probably miss a bit of time, but they're actually healthy to start a year, which we haven't seen in a little bit. I think they could be better than expected. I still think the Grizzlies could be better than I have them too. There's something about that team. They just find a way to win games, but
They always figure it out.
I have just a little bit more concerns about them this year, so I really struggled to do it, but we'll see. The Suns, too, will probably be better than I have them, but that's going to be like 2 wins more than I probably think they'll get, so
yeah,
I'm not that fussed. But yeah, probably the Grizzlies and the Clippers are the 2 teams I think might make the biggest jump from where I have them. Mavericks, I just don't expect it. Kings, I don't see it either, but I'll give them their credit if they do, because that's going to be a hell of an offense again this year if they're up in the top 4, top 5 seeds again.
The Kings could be a team that disappoints me. And what if we're like early on OKC?
Yeah,
that's the only thing that concerns
me. Are going to look pretty rough if they do, but I have so much belief in this team. I'm honestly not that concerned about OKC. I think they're just like, they're postseason wise, that's another story, but young teams can have a lot of reason to want to compete well in the regular season. It's like not quite the same type of team, but probably a slightly more talented Cavs team from a couple of years ago when they fell out of the postseason once they had injuries. Really good defensive team led by a really good young guard. As long as they don't get hit with the injury bug, I think they should be pretty good for that spot.
Yeah, because we were all high on the Pelicans last year being that young team to jump up, and they disappointed us, but it was injuries.
Yeah.
So I think OKC will be more healthy, and Chet's going to make such a crazy impact.
Yeah, I've been a Chet truther for a long time, bro. I've been standing on him. That's my rookie of the year. Come on, stop playing.
So we all had the same 15 seed and the same 1 seed, and everything else is different.
A couple light agreements. 2 of us together on the Suns. 2 of us together on the Lakers.
Portland.
2
no. No, not
Clippers
Portland.
and
Utah.
Clippers and Mavericks are real similar placements. Yeah, we were the same on Houston, Reek.
Yep.
And the Pelicans, actually.
Yeah.
It's just those couple of teams. Like, I feel like the big ones that were like real rangy was like the Wolves, Grizzlies, and Kings. Like those 3 teams kind of have a lot of variance.
Yeah. OKC a little bit. Yeah. Not too much though.
OKC because Devin is a madman.
Well, he also had Orlando at 5 last week.
That's 6, yeah.
6, okay.
Yeah, I'm predicting some jumps this year. I'm going for it.
Fuck it, might as well.
Yeah.
Someone's got to improve, in theory.
It happens. It happens every single year. Every single season. The Knicks jumped up last year. The Knicks jumped up a couple years ago.
The Knicks really did it
last year.
Raptors jumped up a couple years ago. It's bound to happen. Like, there'll probably be multiple teams that do that this year.
Oh, probably. I don't know which one of these other teams in the West would do it, but maybe Portland will put it together. Portland would be that team that I wouldn't be shocked to see in the play-in at all.
I wouldn't either. They got so much talent. And I was
seeing...
Oh, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, especially because it seems like they're going with the let's be competitive route as opposed to let's start 8 at the 4. Let's for sure start sharp. Let's go with all the youth. That's like Robert Williams going to come off the bench. Jeremy Grant's going to start at the 4. Bible's going to fight for the starting spots. We have a little bit more defense out there. Like, they're very much going with a let's be as competitive as we can approach. And given the fact that they already have so much good young talent, I really don't hate it.
Bro, Anthony Simons, his splits without Dame, it's like all NBA first team type level last season. Like, he was so good.
Bro, people think I'm crazy for being high on Anthony Simons. I don't understand. Like,
I love Anthony Simons.
He's so good.
And even Shaden Sharp last year when he was young.
Sharp was averaging like
even Shane Sharp
9.
was. Yeah, like I knew we had a good end of the year. I just thought it was like relatively inefficient, but it wasn't. It was really efficient, which I did not think until I looked it up the other day, and I was like, "What the heck?" But no, this guy was just cooking to end the season.
He's so talented. Like,
Shane Sharp's last 10 games was 23.7 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He shot 46% from the field and 38% from three.
That's great numbers.
Them getting Scoot at 3 is just so hilarious.
Just 10 games, but that is great numbers.
Yeah. Them getting Scoot at 3 is crazy. Like it's like
hilarious.
That was as much of a robbed the NBA as getting the trades as they did get Scoot Miller at number 3. Like,
the best
crazy, and it was a good pick before Dame was traded, and now it's just like perfect pick.
My comment on Devin's video really fed families.
Bro, it, like when I made my trade Dame video like over a year ago, I could not have imagined Shaedon Sharp being there, then Scoot Henderson, Ayton, Rob Will, Matisse, Chris Murray, like, dog.
Nah, bro. With the lineups that they were like running when Damian Lillard would be out, like the year that he like missed all the time with like the weird
Brandon Williams was getting starting point guard minutes.
Bro, like with the lineups they were running out there, I thought, they're gonna trade him and they might get a decent return, but some of them lineups might look a little like 2015 Lakers, like 2016 Sixers, stuff like that. But now they went straight from one era to the next.
Hollis Thompson getting big minutes and shit. Like Joe Cronin, man, you cooked, man. And he was worrying me when he made the CJ trade and the Norm Powell trade because I'm like, well, like, what's the return supposed to be here? Like, are you guys trying to be bad? And then they go trade for Jeremy Grant. So it's like, guess they're trying to be good. But no, he redeemed himself, man, big time. Big time, man. He did a hell of a job this last couple of weeks, really this whole offseason, because you get Scoot in the draft. You don't make any dumb decision there. He cooked this offseason for sure.
Definitely. Bringing Thibault back was an underrated signing as well. It's good to bring him back.
Wasn't he shooting like 38% when he got traded to Portland last year?
Yeah, it was about that. I'll have to look up the exact numbers again, but it was about that in the 20 or so games he was there. Yeah, he shot 38.8% on 3.9 attempts in 22 games. That's not a completely insignificant sample size.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say like not even just the percentage, but the fact that he was actually taking like a solid volume and making those shots was really impressive.
Yeah, people leave Philly and just learn how to shoot again, I guess.
We thought he was Andre Roberson, but he might end up being actually 3-and-D, not just B and nothing.
Yeah, I remember he was all defensive, like second team over Mikal Bridges, playing like 20 minutes a game or some shit like that. That was the craziest shit ever, man.
Yeah, that was crazy. I had some thoughts about that for sure.
Yeah, but I like Matisse. Him and his core. However it shapes up, man, they're in very, very good shape.
They just need a couple guys to pan out, and they got their franchise cornerstones. That's what I keep saying.
Scoot's going to get like 14 points a game his rookie year just off of just getting to the bucket, bro.
He's just going to be so relentless, man. Like, I'm excited to watch him for sure.
Yeah, he definitely
I know it's preseason. They was playing the Breakers. He's getting to the bucket at will. Man.
Yeah, getting the bucket at will. Mid-range pull-up already looks more viable than I thought it would. Hitting the 3 or 2, like I don't expect the shooting to be perfect off rip, but even still, that looks better than I thought it would. And like you mentioned, getting to the rim, he's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
already.
He's who Ja thought he was, bro.
I was having that discussion with my dad because like he was basically saying like I don't know about Scoot. He's like, what, he's supposed to be like a John Morant? I'm like, well, John Morant coming out of college, they had concerns about his shot too. And, will he be able to get to the rim at will? And John Morant turned out to be pretty good as well. Not saying Scoop's going to be John Morant, but
let's say pretty good might be a little bit of an understatement.
It's there. Like, nah. Guards that are that athletic, it's rare that they kind of just don't pan out. Like Dennis Smith Jr. is one of them. Outside of that, like guys that are that athletic, it's kind of rare that those guys don't turn out to be all-star level players.
Hey, Dennis Smith Jr., he wasn't a star, but he carved himself a nice little role, man, being a nice little defensive guard. That's definitely – I don't think anybody's projection for him coming out of the draft, but it looks like it's going to keep him a job for at least the near future.
Yeah, he'll stay employed because of that for sure. But even him coming out of college, he wasn't as highly touted as Ja, Scoop.
No, those guys were top 3 picks.
Derrick Rose, like those guys are all top, 3-4 picks. Like, yeah. There's levels to it, but that's like a real like just game-breaking type of attribute, like guards that can really put pressure on the defense like that and finish above the rim like that. Like it's a reason why those guys are like generational prospects.
Right. Because I mean, there's like skill sets and but like stuff like that level of athleticism isn't like something you can teach, you know, like exactly. That's why when you're doing a draft and like drafting off potential, it's like, yeah, we can teach you all these things, but at a certain point, that's just a natural ability that they have to be so athletic. So, I mean, there's a reason they end up going that high.
Definitely. Before we get any further along, do we want to take a look at this ESPN list and see how atrocious ESPN did this year?
Please.
Listen.
We don't have the top 10 yet, so we'll have to leave that for next week. But we do have
kind of guess who the top 10.
We do have 100 through 10. Well, ignore the lady that for some reason has to be so massively on the side of the screen. But
Mitch Robinson at 100.
Mitch Robinson was at 100. Yeah, only 2 spots lower than last year, which is probably valid.
Okay.
JV at 99.
He stepped back last year. That makes sense.
Yeah, a bit of a step back for him is weird. Or is
what
valid.
The fuck?
Colin Sexton being on the list is interesting.
Well, again, when we did our redraft a couple weeks ago, I was the highest on Colin Sexton. But you can't tell me based on what you saw last year, Colin Sexton's a top 100 player in the NBA.
Well, I don't even remember where I drafted him at. Was it like 12, 13, something like that?
No, I had him at like 13, and that was the highest.
Yeah, I'd have to refer back. I'd have to refer back. I can pull up the records, but it was definitely low. And yeah, him being at 98 here definitely seems a bit interesting. Grant Williams moves up a couple of spots. Who's that? 97.
Okay. Grant's fine.
Harrison Barnes fell down in 22 spots. He was
must be playoff
22. Dang.
Got to be some playoff bias because he was good. Like he was really good last year.
I was gonna say like
wasn't he around like 15 points?
Got better. His team got better, and he still like fulfilled the role. You know,
it was just playoffs. He struggled, which okay.
Oh, he's done that before.
A lot of guys struggled. A lot of guys struggled for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd imagine a lot of that's got to be. It's got to be based on playoff performance. There's no way otherwise that he falls that much. Jalen Williams gets in. I like that. I'd probably have him higher, to be honest, but I'm at least glad.
I was gonna say that even feels low. Number 2 option on a competitive team.
Yeah, number 3 option, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely glad he made the list. Russ gets on the list. Heavy fall from the year before, which is interesting because in the eye of the public, he definitely was regarded better last year. But
that defense,
of course, he wasn't going to be as high as 65 this year.
Yeah. But you tell me he's only 4 spots higher than fucking Colin Sexton? Get the fuck out of here, man.
He's way more dynamic. For his drawbacks, he's still such a dynamic player.
Definitely. He definitely is. Mike Conley gets in just above him, which I don't hate. Seems about the right tier for him.
Still solid.
Manuel quickly gets his first berth on the list.
I like it. He was really good last year.
Not the sixth man of the year. Yeah.
Definitely not the sixth man of the year, but
not the sixth man.
The spot on this list seems very deserving. I can definitely get behind that. Definitely can get behind that. Josh Hart also gets on the list, a spot above quickly.
God, his
nice
form
to see
looks
him
funky.
make the list. His form is a mess. There's no doubt about that. His form is an absolute
If he's making
mess.
them, though. He's making them, go ahead. But shit.
They are indeed making them. To get back to the Colin Sexton question earlier, you were correct, Reek. You had Sexton at 13. I had him at 15, and Gabe, you had him at 17.
Sounds about right.
But he gets top 100 on this list.
John Collins
is still on the list as well.
Nasty.
I don't hate it. I'm glad he's not as high as 73, but I don't hate it.
He'd be like 100. He'd be like 100 for me, like just made it.
I do think he's better than Colin Sexton.
I agree.
So yeah, I think we might be saying that for quite a few, if not all these guys, though. So, Robert Williams takes a tough fall. I'm assuming this is mainly availability, but
gotta be.
I mean, it might have just been a little bit of a general fall because he was for real like defensive player of the year till he got injured 2022. He was still great last year, but he wasn't regarded even in that same light.
You telling me they don't have a picture of him in a Blazers jersey at all, a practice jersey or something?
They got to have something from Media Day at this point.
Like, why are you using a fit pic, bro? Like, what the hell?
They definitely got to have something from Media Day.
He wanted them to pick the fit, bro.
But when I made my thumbnail for the Portland video, there wasn't one yet. And I just wasn't going to do it because it didn't make sense from jersey standpoint. But this would have been released like yesterday. There was something available.
Just start dropping these. Like, come on, ESPN, be better.
Kevon Looney gets on the list, which is nice to see.
Big Loon, I love that.
Definitely nice.
Good
to see
range.
Above
Good
Robert
range
Williams is interesting, but I'm glad he's on the list. Yeah. Availability is the clear thing that Looney has above Robert Williams, evidently. But
Mr. Consistency.
Definitely. For a guy who struggled with injuries early in his career, it's nice to see. Buddy stays on the list as well, which is very deserved. Very available.
One of the
best
shooters in the world. He had a very good
year last year.
I like it.
Yeah, Buddy's a good shout.
Kuz being this low seems weird to me.
That does feel very low.
I know he wasn't playing winning basketball, but he had a really good year last year.
I don't care, man. He was good.
Low. Yeah. This seems really low for him. Like, all due respect to Kevon Looney, but that's different tiers of players. Yeah. Very different tiers of players.
Different roles, but Kuzma, man, he was so damn good. Like there was a stretch where he was like a 25-point per game guy. Like he was so damn good last year.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting spot for him. Anthony Simons moves up on the list.
Okay.
It's nice to see.
I'm surprised he was ranked going in the last season. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. But nice to see Clint stays on the list as well. Moves back.
I thought Clint would fall off. I feel like he fell off more than that this past season.
Yeah, he was better last year than he was the year before, though. So
yeah,
I don't hate it. He was okay last year. The year before, I was way more on the Kongwu needs to start train than last year, just because Capella looked good again last year. So
yeah, he was cool. He was cool last year. He was cool.
Tobias Harris, he took a really heavy fall, but I'm not really against it at this point.
30 spot. Yeah, I mean, y'all know my takes on Philly.
Toby is Mr. Consistent, man. You're going to get 16 to 18 points. Don't expect more.
Yeah, that's about right for Toby at this point. Cam Johnson comes in, first time on the list.
I like that.
Big jump on the way.
Definitely for that. Bobby Portis comes in on the list as well after a really good season.
Small forward Bobby Portis, okay.
Jalen Green moves down on the list and did not realize he was that high on the list last year.
Jesus. I wonder if
honestly, this placement might be a little bit more accurate than where they had him last year. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, this might be a little bit high, but or a little bit low, but 62 seems a bit much.
Yeah, after his rookie year where he wasn't great.
But I guess if Hero's in this range, then I guess this is just where they're at because he's moved down. Was 62? Yeah, I mean Hero and Green are still right next to each other. They've just moved them back 18 spots.
Do we think Jordan Poole made the list?
He has to. Colin Sexton's on the list. He has to.
Colin Sexton is. He has to.
He has to.
He might be one of the next.
Although ahead of Hero is interesting.
But ahead of Kuzma, like that feels kind of wild.
Yeah, even just ahead of Hero from being at the same type of role. Like I feel like Hero, you think is ahead of him.
The rookie placements kind of like irritate me because that is just 1,000% projecting. Like,
yeah, there's nothing to substantiate that on.
No basis.
But
I like Scoot though.
Jordan Clarkson moving up is nice to see. It's definitely deserved.
So good last year. Bro was tatted up.
Chris Paul might be the biggest faller on the list.
Yeah, probably.
But Allen from 21 last year was crazy.
55 spot. Damn.
He was good going into last season. Like he was like 14-10 the year before, but
21.
21?
A little bit high. A little bit high.
Shit.
Nah, I mean Warriors. Chris Paul is gonna go down like Celtics Shaq, bro. Come on.
Nah, he's gonna be good still. Fucci, man.
I think he was underrated last year, man. He was.
I agree.
Good.
I still don't mind this ranking because I think 57 was a bit high, but he was decent last year. He was decent.
The year before it was like kind of bad. Like dude was like one of the worst paint scorers in the league for like a good stretch of the season.
Yeah.
Inefficient. He was shooting like around or under 50%. Like a lot better last season.
Definitely. They do have Cade on the list. Significant fall.
35 last year.
35 is a bit crazy for him last year. I'm not going to lie.
Man.
Had a good rookie year, but it wasn't that good.
It's got to be like 75% projecting and 25% what have you done?
Got to be, especially for the young guys.
35. I mean,
but now it's like he dropped.
They don't even have Victor that high.
Okay.
And Chet comes in. Chet a little bit higher than Scoot.
The GOAT.
Jordan Poole is indeed on the list.
He is on the list. Okay. I'm glad because I feel like he got hated.
He's not the best player on that team, though.
Yeah, he's not. I'll take Kuzma.
No. Kuzma is way better.
Kuzma is definitely better. Honestly, you can make an argument for me that Tyus Jones is better too, from an overall impact standpoint.
Interesting. Potentially. I can see it.
But that one's a little bit more debatable. RJ in here, I don't mind.
Yeah, overhated player. He was cool last year.
Definitely. Nice Walker Kessler ranking. I like to see that.
Okay, some people at ESPN do no ball. That's a good ranking. I like that.
They watch the games.
It's good to see.
They watch some games. Rook.
That's low.
He had to be on the list. But this guy's got to be higher. He's got to be.
I feel like he's like top like 55-ish.
I can't believe he wasn't ranked. Like he definitely had like a, I don't want to call it breakout because he's so old, but like a really like eye-catching season last year. But
he was coming off that back injury.
Yeah.
And Portis was playing well. Like I was one of the camp alongside a few people that it's like Portis should be the starting center. Brook is the backup or needs to be traded. So I can see it. But yeah, I mean, I went from Lopez as the backup to Lopez is really, really good in the span of 18 months. So I think that's definitely valid. I think this is still really low considering Kessler was just behind him and even just independently looking at our centers lists. Kessler was not anywhere near those lists. I mean, he was very good last year, but like Lopez is a tier, if not 2 tiers above that in my eyes.
Now it's about who's Brook Lopez better than. He's better than Michael Porter Jr.
Definitely better than Michael Porter Jr. I feel like he had a fine year last year. But I don't know if he's moving up from last year, other than he won a title.
He missed a single shot.
Is Brook better than OG?
Yes.
You say yes?
Dude, I'm like, bro.
At this point, bro, that's a tough one. So OG is just so valuable. I think they're close. I think OG can still be higher as well.
Why could he get talked into taking Brook over? Okay.
Because
all right.
What the fuck?
Like, Reeves deserves to be back where Poole was. In my eyes.
Yeah.
I think that's more his range.
That's Laker shine right there.
Yeah.
OG
You're
and
telling me
Lopez
Austin Reeves is better than Kyle Kuzma.
That's also crazy.
Brook Lopez, OG Anunoby. If the Lakers could trade Austin Reeves to get OG right now, they would do it.
Facts.
1,000% of the time.
Oh, 100 times.
And I like
Masai heard that he would hang up the phone and not talk to Pelinka for 3 months.
I like Austin Reeves. That's the thing. I like him. He's a good basketball player, but
I mean, Masai could get offered LeBron and AD for OG, and he'd probably hang up the phone and not talk to Pelinka for 3 months.
Probably not.
Like, come on, bro. What are we doing here, man? Did I have Brook Lopez above Miles Turner? Let me see.
Yeah, come on, bro. Brook Lopez is easily better than Miles Turner.
I don't remember where you had him. I think he was on my lists, but
he does what Miles Turner does, but better.
Let me look at the
centers list, man.
here.
Oh, here it is. They were back to back. I had Miles Turner at 7.
Yeah, I knew they had to be close for sure. They definitely had to be close.
Miles Turner was really good last year.
He was. He had a really good year. He had a nice breakout year in Indy. Having the front court to himself was very nice for sure. Definitely did him well.
Insane.
That's the Tyrese effect.
But Rudy is above him and Brook? Oh,
that's off reputation
that.
alone.
Rudy or Austin Reeves at this point?
Give me Austin Reeves.
Yeah. Yeah, give me Reeves.
Playoff riser Austin Reeves.
Crazy.
Rudy should be back where Rob was.
Rob is maybe
not that far back, but he should be like those guys should be more near each other than.
I know I had Rudy high on the list,
Brook.
but thinking about it now, Rob or Rudy, I might take Rob. I don't know.
Rudy doesn't suck, but he's just not as good as he was.
But is he the high post passer of Rob Will?
He's not, man. Rob, he's dishing them dimes, man. Like,
yeah, no, give me Rob comfortably.
Look, Brook and MT is nuts.
Yeah,
that is reputation.
That's the crazy part. This one I don't get either. Scotty above OG. Like, I don't get it. I also don't know how he was 39th ranked last year. But
39, yeah.
Him above OG doesn't make sense at all. OG is a better offensive player and a way better defender.
If we're projecting, how is he above Cade?
He is above Cade. That's weird.
How is he above Cade Cunningham?
I don't see it.
Above Brook Lopez.
What are the base? Yeah, well,
I don't see it.
Above Brook Lopez.
Porzingis had a good year. I think that's a good placement.
Yeah, at least for the bigs, this makes sense. He was available last year, so unless they're still holding that against him, I'd like to see him a little bit higher. But
yeah, I don't mind it.
Desmond Bane.
That could be.
I feel like he probably should have moved up a bit more, but maybe I'm forgetting some guys ahead of him. But he was really good last year.
And he's gonna have an opportunity to really put up some crazy numbers the first month or so of the season, man.
Easy all-star bid if Memphis is good, I think.
Definitely viable for sure. DeJounte Murray above Desmond Bane is crazy. That is crazy.
I think he's, based off of last season, he's closer to Austin Reeves.
Oh, 100% he is.
I do think DeJounte is this good, though. He, if it was like his skill set, I don't think he regressed that much from where he was 2 years ago in San Antonio. I think the fit was just strange.
Yeah, numbers wise, he's gonna get his numbers because him with the ball in his hands, he's that good of a player. But
I need the defense to come back for me to put him up here.
Efficiency was worse. The defense was worse. Like when we saw that trade, we were like, "Oh, his defense next to Trae Young is gonna be." He was basically Kevin Huerter, pretty much.
Yeah,
but it was like the same defensive value last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I need way more defense for him to be getting put up here. And then the 42 makes a lot more sense, but
Yeah.
I need a lot more of that.
Mac
It's a
is
good spot.
Mac.
It's a good spot.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Listen, I'm on record. Derek White was better than Marcus Smart last year. Will he be better this year? I don't know. But the fact Derek White isn't on this list.
That is crazy. Absolutely
nuts.
crazy.
Go nuts.
Don't mind the spot for Grant either.
I think that's fine.
If Jeremy gets the opportunity, he's putting up 20 points a game.
For sure.
This was a big one.
It's got to be strictly availability.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. Because I think Kawhi is in the 30s on this list too. So they did impact availability. So whatever.
So I guess it makes sense for Zion, but man,
if Zion's
him
in,
healthy,
he's
top 20. Yeah, him healthy,
Sure.
top 20.
Fred.
Big boy
I think
Freddie.
that's fine.
It is
He wasn't
funny,
as
but
good
I know
last year.
it. I don't hate it, but I know Raptors Twitter was losing it over Freddie being above OG. It's definitely funny, but man, I got some media day pictures for him. That's an absolutely hilarious photo.
Yeah, out of all the picks, he picked that one. He was 28 last year. Draymond, I'll take it.
I don't hate it. I don't
I'll
hate
take
it. I probably am a little bit lower, but I don't.
Better
hate
than
it.
Zion is crazy.
At least Wiggins is ahead of him.
Yeah, I get it. Wiggins the GOAT. Wiggins, that's low for Wiggins. He just missed that time last
He
year.
was
but it
32 last year? Wow.
Bro, Wiggins was nice as hell and was right off the ring.
All-star
I'm
starter.
just saying,
Wiggins.
man. Real Wiggins truthers over there at ESPN, man. They must like Wiggins.
Real
I like
Wiggins truth is right here.
I like Wiggins too.
All-star starter, defending champ. Man,
Yep.
had some things going for him to get up there. Oh, I
Giddey
did not
above
expect to see
Wiggins.
Giddey this high.
Giddey above Wiggins.
I don't know how I
I
feel
like
about
Giddey
that.
though.
I do like
though.
Giddey, but I was not expecting to see him this high.
He's
I
not
mean, I
better
guess
than Brook Lopez, bro.
He's not. No.
Yeah, no, he's not.
If he was in the range of like Austin Reeves, but above Austin Reeves,
yeah,
that's
he's
fine
like
for him.
mid-60s, not up here.
Not
Yeah.
damn near top 50.
Yeah, that's a bit crazy. Because I mean, him and Franz Wagner are in two different tiers. Right now, at
No.
least.
Yeah, no shade, but Franz is just that. He's that good.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
He's that good.
Aaron Gordon. I like that.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty good for him.
You might be able to talk me into placing him higher. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
definitely not
Agreed.
even lower. But
Agreed. 50 to 11. Sure,
I
Allen
think I would take
50.
I think I'll take Aaron Gordon. I mean, Brook Lopez is better. Miles Turner's better.
Miles Turner's better.
yeah, there's a lot.
How
of
he
people-
moved up after last season is very odd. The guy comes off an all-star campaign, and then last year was just very okay for his
he was like
standards.
what, 14 and 10 or something like that.
I
Like
mean,
it's
the
good.
Cavs were a great defense, so they're probably going to give him some credit for that. But this is the dual effort of him and Mobley.
But the Bucks are also a great defense, and Brook Lopez was the defensive player of the year candidate.
Right.
Had the best year of his career. Could have been an all-star.
Very interesting, especially because like they're giving Mobley his love, and he was the biggest part of the defense. But Allen being there, and then Ayton gets put up.
Let's
How Ayton is this
go.
high? Again? How does Ayton move up after last year?
Truther.
I don't know how he moves up. Got to be a lot of projection in this one.
Because he's not good.
I hope he proves it. I really do.
He will.
I hope so too.
Look, man, he's got me.
22 and 11.
I'm biting the bullet again, man. I saw him block that shot off the glass and rim run, get a two-hand dunk. Like I'm back, Aiken. I'm here.
22 and 11.
Let's cook.
Let's hope, man. Let's hope.
I'm also back on the Ben Simmons train, man. Well, I never left, but
See, here's what I don't understand: is so many players got punished for availability, but LaMelo Ball did not drop that much.
Yeah. That's really weird. And I don't hate the spot for him, but like, how does he not get penalized like everyone else does?
If Zion's not allowed to be in the 30s, but LaMelo, like, I don't get it.
Gabe, you said on Twitter earlier, people forget LaMelo's a media darling as well, man. They love LaMelo.
I feel like he's washed, bro. Zion was a media darling. It's washed.
his media darlingness is washed, but LaMelo is still there. It's still there. If LaMelo drank some coffee this morning, House of Highlights probably posted it.
The problem with LaMelo is he's the media darling, but literally everything else that franchise does goes against him being a media darling.
Yeah,
Like, it's a problem.
Yeah. Kai Jones got cut.
The GOAT.
Kai Jones got cut. Just a warrant out for Bridges again, apparently.
I'm happy I had him low. I'm happy I had him at 14. I'll say that.
I just don't get the rookie stuff, man. Like I just don't understand.
Yeah,
Victor, he looked good in that preseason game, but
He's gonna be really good, but man, I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Cash Money
Middleton,
Chris,
no surprise that he fell. No surprise at all.
Yeah,
this is fine. This is fine.
definitely valid. Randall. This feels
Randall.
a bit low for Randall.
I mean, it was
man.
a 26
Playoff
spot
bias.
jump. Look at where he was last year.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good jump, but like outside of the
He was bad at
postseason,
22.
he was really
bad at
good
22.
last year.
He was rebounding like never before.
Yeah,
Scoring
Really
the
underrated
ball
part
at
of
a
this
career
game.
high clip. And he was really good last year for sure.
yeah. Like, there's no way I can put CJ above him after last year.
Especially because CJ had a CJ stayed the same.
CJ? CJ should be back in like the mid 60s too right now.
Yeah.
Like he should be back there.
I
And
would like
that's
that.
that's my
got
guy.
improvement this year.
I have a CJ McCollum Blazers shirt. That's my dude. I love CJ. He was bad. He was bad last year for his standards.
Not great.
James Harden comes in next. He was 11.
He was
last
11? Shit.
year. Crazy.
11 was high. 11 was real high, but to 43 is a great. He might be catching some Celtic Shaq allegations. He's at least like Phoenix Suns Shaq.
I hope he gets traded soon, man, because James is still good.
The Clippers guard room will look a lot better.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's
him and I don't know how that would work, but if Russ is still not a part of the trade, I don't
It's
know
like
how
the
that-
OKC GOAT squad, bro, plus Kawhi.
Tyrese Maxey comes in ahead of Harden, which is interesting.
Given all the question marks about Harden right now,
Light projecting, but I don't hate
don't
it. 'Cause I
hate
think
it.
Maxey honestly probably will be better this season.
Yeah. Yeah, if you ask
If
me
you
this
told me
by
Ma-
the end of the season, I don't hate it.
yeah,
Especially if he takes a jump as a playmaker, because his scoring I think is there. We know he like put. I was talking about this last night. He like really had that development on the shooting, so he's a guy who I know can develop and add new things into his game. So if he
Yes.
can do similar with playmaking, what he did with shooting, like he'll be real good.
I was watching JJ's pod. He had like Nakai's Duncan on there, and he was talking about like how Maxey's been a very like safe playmaker. Like he'll make good reads and stuff.
Right.
But like you said, Gabe, he's somebody that's shown he can improve in aspects of his game. I want to see him be a little more dynamic this year playmaking, man, because the ball's gonna be in his hands a lot. Him and Embiid. So jumps there.
Definitely.
Clay, that's high.
Clay at 41.
That's high.
It's a little bit high. I don't hate it, but it's a little
Like,
bit
slightly.
high. Yeah.
If he's like 44, 45 or something.
Yeah,
I
if I think he'd be closer to 50 for me, but it's fine.
Clay was still good last year though. Like he shot the ball
I think-
crazy.
Like I think Aaron Gordon was better, and Gordon was like 50.
I think so too.
Yeah. Agreed.
Harden was better.
Mobley, I honestly think that's fair, especially the offensive concerns are very real, but his defense is good enough to carry his position.
I think this is a cool position for him.
Yeah.
Top 40.
Yeah, I'm more than fine with that. Still think Aaron Gordon's better than him, but
I
Aaron
agree.
Gordon's just low. DeMar. I don't hate this for DeMar.
Regressed a little bit. Could see a little more regression this year. That's fine.
Yeah, a little low, but once again, fine.
yeah.
Levine
not
right next to him. It seems about right. Very 1A, 1B there.
Fair. Even though I think DeMar's better.
Levine is better than Bradley
Yeah.
Beal. Get the fuck out of here.
Bradley Beal should
Levine's
be about.
better than Bradley Beal.
Bro, talking about this availability shit again, bro.
He was
Zion
19
gets
last year?
penalized big time.
19 is
Williams gets bro. Some guys get punished big time, but like LaMelo and Beal are just fine. Like I don't understand.
It's very odd. Some guys just get that rep and some guys don't. Nice to see Darius Garland up here. That's deserved.
Underrated season last year.
Definitely.
Didn't get talked
Mitch
about
would,
much.
Mitchell got the shine, but he still had a very good year.
He was numbers-wise, I think, just as good or better than his All-Star year.
Yeah.
Still really
Yeah,
good.
it was very comparable. John Morant comes in right next to him.
Availability stuff, I know.
Yeah, definitely availability. Otherwise, he should be a bit higher.
That's real low. Feels like
Top 20 guy for sure.
Kyrie. This feels a little bit low.
It's low.
Not a ton, just a little bit. I think the availability stuff is still a little bit overblown for him at this point.
Kyrie's probably top 25.
Very available. He was very available last year.
Like, he was very available.
Yeah, he's top 25 or a lot closer to top 25 than 35 for sure.
Yeah.
Kel Bridges makes a nice jump. It's deserved. Still don't know if I put him above Kyrie.
Above Kyrie?
But...
Yeah. I like Makoto, but above Kai is Brunson above Kai.
Brunson jump too. But yeah.
This is a good spot though. Good spot.
Brunson above. That means Tyrese Halliburton's above Brunson. Jared Jackson.
We love it. We love it. We love it.
It's a good spot for Jaren. I think it's a good spot.
But do we think Jaren's a better basketball player than John Morant and Kyrie Irving?
Damn, he is above Ja. Wait a minute. Wow. ESPN has Jaren as that. Honestly,
that's unavailable.
I'm gonna be honest. As a needle mover for increasing the amount of wins a team gets. Yes.
I think Jaren is a more floor raiser.
Yeah.
Ja, he's raising that ceiling. Like he makes them like a deep playoff threat candidate when he's on the
court. Definitely.
So.
I can get behind that because sometimes Jaren does get exposed a little bit in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely can get behind that. Paolo at 30.
I love it. I'm here for it, man. I'm here. I'm buying in.
Some of the rookies, they get these crazy high rankings, but they were asleep on Paolo, clearly.
Hey, man. Paolo is that guy.
Paolo is that guy. I like it. This is even higher than I would have thought they would have had him, but I'm not mad at it. I don't think
I would have him above like Kyrie and Ja, but
this list clearly is doing some projecting, and with that, I think it's a good spot.
Yeah, I'm with it. There was no Wendell on this list, so they had to make up with it for Paolo. So
Trae Young at 29.
Y'all know this is some shit I would say.
You know what?
It's crazy to me.
You know what? For somebody that's so overrated, he's never rated very high.
Yeah, he was rated at 16 last year.
That poll the other day about him being the most overrated guy is crazy. He's not overrated. He's just overhated by every coach and exec in this league, which is why he'll never get voted. He'll never get in an all-star game unless he's a fan vote. He's just not regarded well at all.
He's probably underrated at this point.
Oh, 100% he is. 100% he is. Usually those guys that become super hated are those types of guys.
Okay, I'm low on Trae, but Trae is better than Lowry.
I love Lowry too. He might be the biggest jumper because he was not ranked.
Yeah, he probably is.
Be the biggest sleeper.
Can't imagine there's anyone else more than the MIP who's gone from not ranked to top 28.
I feel like I would have him closer to like 35 or something like that, like where Ja was. I think he's more that range, but he's still a damn good guy. Like,
yeah. This is where I feel like Julius Randle's way too low because I feel like him and Laurie should be pretty close.
Yeah, they're on par with each other.
It's not. PI is another guy who's not getting penalized for availability when other guys are.
Doesn't make any sense.
So they knock his teammate. They knock his teammate for missing 53 games. Brandon Ingram misses he only played in 45 games last year.
Now, it's been a couple of years running now. It's been a concern. It's weird. It's almost like the defensive reputation things that, we've kind of just accepted now, where guys just get a defensive rep and it sticks. It's almost like that's just happening with injuries now, and we're not actually looking at how many games dudes are playing.
They gave Kawhi hella votes for best defender in the league, bro. Kawhi ain't been on that level, since he's gotten to the Clippers, bro.
No.
Best defender in the league, no. He's still a good defender, but best in the
not even close right now.
No shot. True Holiday,
26.
same spot as last year.
He should have dropped a little bit to me.
Yeah, high. Kyrie's above him. Brunson's above him. John Morant's above him. If he was closer to like 40-ish, I think that'd be fair for him. Garland's probably better than him right now.
Comp, yeah,
I'm with that.
Low Drew, though. He's going to be great this year. Pascal, 25.
I don't hate it. Don't hate that.
Jump from last year.
Yeah.
Extremely underrated player, man.
Definitely is.
He's so good. Trade Pascal, please. Kawhi at 24. So Kawhi's availability makes him closer to Brandon Ingram, who's not really available either. Kawhi might have played more games last year than Brandon Ingram.
I think he did.
So weird,
man, that's
man.
funny. That's funny.
So weird. Big Aaron Fox jump.
I like it.
Not above Kawhi, but
have we seen Sabonis yet?
No.
We have not seen Sabonis. We have not seen Jamal Murray.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God, we haven't seen Jamal Murray.
Jesus, man.
And there's Sabonis.
Oh, Sabonis.
All right, Sabonis ain't better than De'Aaron Fox. The playoff showed Sabonis is limited. Yeah. He has a low ceiling, high floor. But
putting Sabonis above Fox is interesting.
Sabonis is at least a good 7 spots.
I think regular season he might have been more valuable, but playoffs it was clearly De'Aaron.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't know though, because they won a lot of close games off the clutch player of the year.
Yeah, but Sabonis was also an offensive hub, one of the best rebounders in the league. One of the best paint scorers in the league. Like, he did a lot for them on that offensive side. One of the best screen setters. He helped open up that offense too. But yeah, De'Aaron, I'm not saying it's like a big gap. It was like close. Like,
yeah, it was definitely close. But it's another spot where another dude where it's like him and Randall are probably pretty comparable guys for me. Randall was so low on this list, in my opinion. He's another guy who people will say is overrated, but it's just he's overhated.
Julius is so good.
Halliburton at 21 is also wild.
Is it
above John Morant? Above
it's
Tyrik.
Clear that it's very clear to me that ESPN knows ball. Taking into account a bit of projecting, because this list is clearly based on a bit of projecting. I fear ESPN may know some ball here.
So Tyrese Halliburton is better than Kawhi Leonard.
Yes.
Shit, they probably played around the same amount of games last year.
For real, though.
We're projecting.
And Halliburton's been unavailable to some extent 2 out of his 3 seasons in the league.
We're projecting a little bit here, guys.
Also note that Jamal Murray is going to be above Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh,
which is
what
even more outrageous.
All right, ESPN does not know ball. I take it back.
At 20.
That's high as
Where's
hell.
the availability hit? Where's the availability hit? I don't get it.
High as fuck.
If Cat's available, I don't have too much of an issue, but
the guy misses. He's been missing time recently.
The second best player on a play-in level team is not top 20.
JB at 19. That's fine.
I don't hate JB at 19. Ant's above him, which is interesting.
Was he above on the shooting guard list?
He was above on all of our shooting guards list, but this is more interesting to me.
That's all for
Paul George.
Paul George above Kawhi Leonard?
Paul George is that good of a talent, but he hasn't had that level of production. And above Kawhi is insane.
Keep in mind, probably played around the same amount of games last year.
Yeah. This is where Jamal Murray comes in.
High as fuck. He's in the 30s. He's in the 30s.
Playoff bias is like, it goes a little too far sometimes.
He's never been an all-star. He's in the 30s at best.
Yeah, I agree. 30s is a good spot for him.
Tell me he's 18 spots above John Morant. I don't give a fuck about availability.
Tell me John Morant could flash another gun on Instagram Live tomorrow, and he's still a better basketball player than Jamal Murray.
That's crazy.
Bam at 16. I don't hate
it, especially
I don't dislike it.
Like, they just keep going on these finals runs, and it's just a consistent thing at this point.
I don't dislike it.
And he's probably the most important piece to that roster, even if Jimmy's the best player.
I don't dislike it. Bam's really good. Donovan Mitchell at 15.
That's deserved.
That's
Good
fine.
spot.
That's fine.
That's a really good spot. Dame at 14. Would have liked to have a couple spots, but
I have Dame
availability
at 9. To me, Dame is a top 10 player. He's like at 9.
Availability. If he was like maybe a couple spots higher, I think that was fine.
Yeah, like Dame should be above
Dame.
I'm
at least this year.
I think Ant's like 18.
Tell me Ant's 6 spots above like Jaylen Brown, 11 spots above Kawhi.
I think he's like 8 spot above Jaylen Brown.
See, this is what I don't get though. Playoff bias, right? Jamal Murray gets ranked 17th. Jimmy Butler, a playoff riser. I would have expected him to be top 10 based on their list, like the way they're ranking.
I mean, he arguably individually was better in the last postseason. He was 17 off of that. Because after like the halfway point of the Knicks series, like I mean, he had his moments, but he wasn't.
Very true.
I think individually he was probably better. Like this is probably his third best Heat playoff.
I can't look. I'm somebody like I can understand docking Kawhi some spots, but if healthy, Kawhi's a top 5 basketball player in the world.
Top 8.
Okay, either way, you're docking him over 15 spots because he missed like 30 games last year.
Very odd.
Inconsistent criteria. The Brandon Ingram and Kawhi thing would just
that's hilarious.
That's wild.
Very odd.
Book at 11.
I don't hate this.
Book it to me. Book is like 7 or 8.
I don't.
Is Braun still top 10? Like I don't know if Braun's still top 10 basketball.
He's just outside of me.
I got Braun at 11. Him and AD fight for that 10 spot, but I got like AD 10, Dame 9, 6 through 8 changes all the time between KD, Devin Booker, and Tatum. And then my top 5 is always like Luka, Giannis, Embiid, Steph, and Jokic in whatever order.
Yeah, I don't see how Book fell out of the top 10 for them.
But their top 10 is what?
It'll probably have LeBron.
AD, LeBron.
This is the last game. So it has LeBron, and then also notably has Shea.
Oh,
Shea's
Shea.
the
I was
most,
going to say,
guy in there.
Dame is in my top 10, so I was like, who's the other guy?
And Shea is not a top 10 guy in my eyes.
Shea's not.
I think Shea's closer to Donovan Mitchell.
I think Shea is
range.
Like him and Ant are around the same level for me.
Do we have Shea above Dame?
I think we universally had Shea at 4, Dame at 3.
I'm pulling up the list here. We all had Dame above Shea. We all had Dame at 3, and we all had Shea at 4.
Okay, I've had some homies say like they think Shea's becoming overrated, and I thought that was just like a weird Twitter thing. But maybe this is what people were talking about.
I mean, this list definitely has some projecting, as we've seen. So, like, to say that he could make the jump into being a top 10 player this year, especially with shit like
Devin Booker,
with Devin saying like they might be top 4, like he's not better than Devin Booker though. He's just not.
I mean, even if I'm projecting the next year, and I do think OKC are a top 4 seed, I still think Booker's going to be better. Like Shea's good, but it's not that good.
Shea will probably have higher production because he's not playing with Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. Booker's a better player.
If anybody's a candidate to drop out of the top 10 that they have, is LeBron. Man, this is about to be 40. That's Bron.
Yeah, for sure.
KD's getting there.
You can talk me into KD because of availability according to them, but KD doesn't drop. Bron doesn't drop. Anthony Davis doesn't drop. But Devin Booker has one season where he misses some games, and that's probably their reason for, let's drop him a spot.
Right.
Can he make a run at MVP, but you haven't ranked 11? Yeah, okay.
They're so fucking weird, bro.
That makes sense.
That might have irritated me more than any other placement.
I don't know. I don't know what my top 10 would be, but Book would probably be in it.
I'm gonna go back and look. Where was Randall? He was a 45. Yeah, that seemed a bit low. That's probably the one that sticks out the most to me.
Mine's probably Brooke Lopez. Super
Brooke
low.
was super low.
Yeah, Lopez was low too.
That's and Ingram, Brandon Ingram was high as fuck. So
obviously, John Moran at 35 is insane. Kawhi at 24 is insane.
Definitely.
I'm trying to think. Shea is the obvious. So they got Shea, AD, Bron, Luka, Steph, Jokic, Embiid, Tatum. Who am I missing? KD? Did I say KD?
I don't think so.
I think so.
KD. Huh. Who would the other guy be? I'm trying to think.
Their top 10 is Jokic, Luka, Steph, Giannis.
I didn't name Giannis.
Okay.
Embiid, Bron.
Then Shea, LeBron,
Tatum, Shea, AD. That's nuts. Shea top 10?
He's got to be 10. There's no way he's higher.
If he's higher, there's a problem.
I can somewhat be okay with him at 10, but anything higher is a bit absurd.
Nuts.
And then that means Braun has to be a 9 because he also.
Brook Lopez at 69 might be the worst placement though. That's super low.
Having him one spot ahead of Walker Kessler is just.
And having him below
Kessler's a great player, but man.
Was Jordan Poole above? Was it Jordan Poole that was above him, or was he right behind?
I think
Poole was
65, but I could be wrong.
Ew.
Yeah, let me get his full name in here. $72.
Okay.
So he's a couple of spots out of him.
Still,
Kuzma was
Reeves above him.
That was a really bad one.
Super low.
Kuzma at 86 was really bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Derek White not being on the list is criminal. Colin Sexton being on the list is criminal. I wonder if there's any other guys that they missed that's just
Agreed.
You could Markelle Fultz is better than Colin Sexton right now. I would have been okay with that.
Yeah. Definitely an argument for that. Potential Raptors bias, but argument for Podol being on the list.
I would take that over Colin Sexton. Podol's really good.
He is.
Crazy efficient.
I consider him and Vooch on pretty similar tiers, and Vooch is way up on this list.
Yeah. Vooch he had a good year last year for his standards.
Yeah, he did. Wendell's the other guy, too, as far as bigs go.
Yeah.
Who was higher on the list, Clay or Wiggins?
Clay. Wiggins was 54, I think.
Yeah. 54, indeed. I think Clay was 41.
Yeah, no, that's not. No way. Wiggins is better.
Yeah,
the only way you can talk me into that is because Wiggins barely played last year. That's the only way. But even then,
that's not injury concerns, availability, so it shouldn't really be too much of a concern.
Switch that for me at this point. I think Dre and Clay are about the same level, and I think Wiggins is a tier better.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The Warriors got 4 top 55 players according to ESPN. It's fine.
They probably
5
do.
top 100. Well, 6 top 100 because Chris Paul too.
Yeah.
I mean, their whole starting lineup in there, 6-man.
Yep. Yeah. Kawhi at 24, 5, whatever he was, that's insane.
I don't care if I get 25 games out of Kawhi. Motherfuckers at worst top 12 or 13 or something like that.
For real. Brogdon's another guy you could have seen on this list too, compared to a guy like Sexton.
Yeah,
quickly was on the list, but Brogdon was not.
Yeah, Kawhi's definitely still top 15. You can't drop below that no matter how you feel about
it. No Brogdon.
No Derek White. Sexton makes the list.
Paul George.
Grant Williams made the list. Motherfucker barely played last year. He made the list. That's
For real.
That's crazy.
Hell, I would have taken Bruce Brown over Colin Sexton.
Bruce Brown could have made, bro.
Austin Reeves high as hell.
Bruce Brown could have made it. There's a lot of guys that I would take over Colin Sexton right now. A lot of guys. You could talk me into PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
You could talk me into Josh Hart.
Josh Hart was on the list.
Yeah.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh Hart was
He
one
was-
spot above quickly.
Yeah. Who else?
Yeah, it's 91.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of guys that could have made that list.
Was Devin Vassell on the list?
No.
Devin Vassell was not on the list. It's a great
No.
shout. He's a guy who definitely deserves to be on the list.
Didn't he average like 18 to 20 points last year? Like, he was really good last
Something
year.
like that. Pull it up.
ESPN is crazy. Could talk me into Keldon Johnson over Colin Sexton.
Yeah, 18 and a half. 39% from 3 on 7 attempts.
Oh my goodness. And I just know Colin Sexton's numbers weren't good last year.
They weren't that good,
Wasn't like
and he was less available. And he didn't start that often.
That is insane, bro.
And he's a way worse 3-point shooter. And he's a worse defender. And even though he's a quote-unquote point guard, he's a worse playmaker. Was
gonna
very
say
efficient
14.
to his credit, but
Yeah, he's a pretty efficient small
yeah,
guard.
bigger.
14 is better than what I thought. Thought he was closer to like 12 or something like that.
Yeah, like, it wasn't bad, but he only played 48 games. 3-point volume's not there. Still not a good passer or playmaker. Probably never will
50%,
be at this point.
39
but
from 3. He can score the ball for sure, but there's a lot of guys that deserve to shout on this list above him. Yeah, no Derek White, no Vassell. That's
definitely.
crazy. Could talk me into Tyus Jones over.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Bruce Brown didn't make it. Like, that's Brogdon. I feel like at the bottom of these lists, they just like kind of freestyle it.
Did Nick Claxton make it?
Nick Claxton did not make it.
No, Nick Claxton is another shout. And Jaden McDaniels is another guy. He didn't make the list.
Nick Claxton might
Even
be the most
arguments,
underrated player in the NBA. Like,
Definitely got an argument.
bro.
Did Kai Jones make it? Check the highlight tape.
Oh, God. No Terry Rozier over Colin Sexton? Like,
Hello,
what the fuck are we doing, bro? What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
He better than John Collins too.
I feel like we're just taking shots at Colin Sexton, but it's like, bro, he wasn't that good. I mean,
Fine player, but I
he
don't
was
know, man.
good, but was he better than these guys? No.
All of these shots at Colin Sexton are just indirect shots at ESPN. Is all it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a Colin Sexton. I like Colin Sexton. I like his game for the type of NBA player he can be, but ESPN has to be better. Their criteria, their analysis, like, be better.
It's like us hating on Russ for really Pelinka's poor roster construction. But
Exactly.
Yeah, give me PJ Washington in there too, to be honest. Like,
Real. I feel like I'm missing some like names that really like should be on this list though. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to think of them, but
the Heat had 3 players from their team last year.
they went on a
Trey-
finals run.
Trey Murphy?
Dang, him and Herb both didn't make it, right?
Trey
yeah,
Murphy?
neither of them made it.
Trey Murphy was like scoring the hell out of the ball last year efficiently.
He was, which is funny because like I don't mind JV being on it, but JV is like a starting 6th man for this team the way they play now because Larry Nance is kind of their guy down the stretch.
No Trey Murphy?
He might be one of the first names that should have made the list for real. He was so good last year.
Yeah, if he wasn't injured, maybe he would have been, but
No
I'm not
Kevin
even-
Herter.
I'm not even that high on D'Lo, but D'Lo, I would take D'Lo over Colin Sexton.
Low key.
I don't know if I would, to be honest.
For real? Oof.
I might take Sexton.
I
That's
think I'll
crazy.
take D'Lo. Damn. No Dennis Schroeder? Crazy.
Oh my gosh. Raptors go.
Put Gary
Can't
Trent on
believe-
the list before I put Schroeder.
No Ben Matherin? Like, come on, bro.
Would you have flipped out if like Nurkic was on the list, Devin?
Man, if Nurkic somehow found his way on this list and Claxton wasn't on the list, Podol wasn't on the list, Wendell wasn't on the list, oh man, might have just closed the tab and ended stream.
Nurkic, number 97.
Man, if he ever finds his way on a top 100 list again, there's just no way. Watch the Suns win the title, and then he's on the list next year. And
It'd be like 75 or something like that.
That'll
Nurkic
be-
provided good pick and roll defense and a good finisher.
that'll be the day I retire as a content creator.
At least I'll never have to worry about seeing Dwight Powell on the list.
Yeah, for real. That's never a concern.
I really feel like there's some names that should have been on this list that I'm just missing. Lou Dort could have made it.
Could have.
I wouldn't hate that.
For Colin Sexton?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's definitely the standout one because most of these otherwise I don't mind. Like Conley's fine, Russ is fine, J-Dub is nice, Barnes is arguably should be higher. Grant Williams shouldn't be, but it's better than Sexton. JV is fine, Mitch is fine, but yeah, Sexton is just it's a bit
The way
off-putting.
Mitchell Robinson played in the way playoff bias showed on this list, Mitchell Robinson should have been higher.
I like Mitch. JV is cool, but Claxton deserved a shout over both of those guys, in my opinion.
Definitely did. Yeah, give me Podol above Mitch Robinson too, and JV at this point,
Oh, it was so good, man.
and Wendell.
Rebounds,
No bias.
dumb efficient, and no bias. Yeah. Wendell's like another extremely just like underrated dude.
Yeah,
He does.
I definitely.
He's a really good glue guy for like that Magic team. Like you don't really see a center being a glue guy, but he's like that guy for them.
Yeah, them all arounders do a little bit
He
of
does a little bit of every. He really does a little bit of everything.
Definitely. Well,
That team's really fun.
we'll see if we can think of any other names for next week. We'll bring them up if we do remember, and then we'll have our top 10. Hopefully, Shea and Braun aren't put anywhere too crazy, but we'll,
new segment. Are they
yeah,
better than
that's
Colin
next
Sexton?
I feel so bad, man, because I like Colin Sexton, but this is ESPN's fault.
This is indeed ESPN's fault. We'll have to do a Colin Sexton appreciation segment at some point when he starts playing well in the season. But
I'm gonna go watch Colin Sexton highlights before I go to bed tonight.
definitely the vibe. But that'll wrap us up for this week. Next week is our last round of predictions. Before then, the next stream, we'll have some NBA games on. It'll be the start of our season, but we will be predicting our award winners next week. So be sure to stay tuned for that. We'll also likely look at the top 10 of this list, especially if it's anything egregious and we have to give ESPN any more complaints for how they have done this list. But until then, if you guys did enjoy, be sure to leave a like down below and be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for our predictions next week. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.